What is up, conscious monkeys? Welcome to another episode of Traveling to Consciousness. I am your host, Clayton Terry. Today, we have a repeat guest all the way back from episode 006. She was requested to come back on, this is probably a good spot to mention that if someone you believe would be a good fit for the show, like, let me know, before we blow up and everything's getting crazy. Let's get some people in here that you want to hear. But I'm also glad that she was requested because she's been uploading fascinating videos to her Instagram stories, even though I haven't sent a message on all of them. They've been really enlightening. And she even just told me that it revolves around quantum biology, which I didn't even know was a thing, but let's find out. Conscious monkeys, welcome back to the show, Hannah Olsson. Hannah, thanks for coming back on.
Thanks for having me on, Clayton.
Yeah, so I'm excited. So let's start off with the big question, right? Like, what is quantum biology?
That is the best question because I feel like that's the hardest one to answer. Quantum biology is, in my opinion, everything other than diet and exercise. It's basically all of the lifestyle components that affect our health. One of the major things being our light environment and our electromagnetic environment as well. So
that would be like any type of light that you're like bringing in or like just seeing, and does this even limit you at the eyes, or would it also just be like your skin pick up light in different ways?
There's absolutely photoreceptors in your skin. But so I just recently got into this rabbit hole, so I'm learning as well. But basically, we evolved in the sun, right? You're going to Egypt, you're going to the cradle of civilization. I'm sure it's going to be a very sunny place there, right? And we evolved outside. Animals live outside. We're in contact with our environments, and everybody is into grounding and all of those types of modalities to get back in touch with nature because we're super divorced from nature. But the light environment is something that's really interesting to me. Right now I am inside, I'm in my apartment and people are chronically inside, we're not outside often, but I have every single window open in my apartment to let the light in because, okay, I don't even know where to start with this, but basically light matters so much and artificial light is super destructive.
Well, maybe that's somewhere to start is like, what should your like artificial light environment kind of look like? Because like, I have like there should be no artificial light whatsoever.
Ideally, we're talking ideally, right? So
the perfect world.
You can talk about yin and yang is a really great way to think of this as well. You've light and dark, and light bulbs were really brought into the mainstream like 100 years ago. So we don't have dark anymore. And that's kind of mind-blowing if you think about it. In the last 100 years, our bodies just think that it's perpetually light outside. And I'm sure have heard of circadian rhythms, and those impact every single layer of your health and well-being. So you can eat right and you can exercise, but if you're exercising in a gym under fluorescent light bulbs with Wi-Fi routers and TVs everywhere, like that's also negatively impacting your well-being.
And even furthermore, because I know, like, even just if I think about it myself, like, before I go to bed, I try to meditate before, but, so there's maybe 30 minutes to 45 minutes before bed where, like, I'm in the complete dark and, whatnot. But even before that, right? Like, if the sun goes down, let's say at, 6ish, I know it changes, but let's say it goes down at 6 until like 9:30. I still have lights on in my house. Still have my phone in my hand. I still have the TV running. Right. And so is that just perpetuating to me that it's still daytime, that there's no reason to start making sleep chemicals, let's say.
Absolutely. And so like we have seasons and cycles of nature, our bodies are built to be in tune with those cycles. And so it's, right now it's March. And so we're, thank God, moving into spring. The time just changed yesterday. So we're going to have longer days. So longer days signal summer. right? But it's been winter. And in the wintertime, you have really short days. You have more periods of darkness at night. But so when we have screens and lights going on in the house, your body thinks that the days are longer. Your body thinks that it's summertime, right? On like on a small quantum level, you could say. And then that moves into food. What happens in summertime? You have access to carbohydrates in nature. So people want to binge eat carbohydrates because in summertime, fruits are growing, berries are growing. You have access to all of these beautiful fruits and veggies. In wintertime, you don't have that unless you live in an equatorial climate. So then you can dive into the food rabbit hole with this as well.
So
Yeah.
so then speaking of the food rabbit hole, would it be safe to say, like, could you adjust your diet almost with regards to what season it is? Like during winter, eat less carbs, and then summer, it's like, okay, there's more energy, which makes sense. More sun, more energy.
Mm-hmm.
I have more energy to expend. There it is. That's the word.
Right. Well, expend in your expansion, right?
Same thing, right?
Right. But yeah, absolutely. So ideally, we would be eating foods that are available to us locally, you know? And I've learned quite a lot since I came on last time, even to the point that like agriculture is not necessarily normal or natural. Just because something can grow doesn't
Air
mean that
quotes.
it's yeah, right. Doesn't mean that it can, if it's not from your environment, like, should you be eating it? Or is the imported papaya from Mexico in November, like, is your body in tune to have that? No, there's so much dissonance happening right now.
And it's interesting that you say that because I even know, and this is where my mind kind of went with the whole GMO thing. Like, let's start labeling things as GMO.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my perception is like, well, like at what level, and maybe there's like a whole like FPA or what is it, FDA, like reason that you can label it GMO. But my monkey brain, it's like, everything's GMO. Like there is no,
Yeah.
like we've modified everything. There is no, like what wouldn't be modified in a sense, like except for water. Like if it's just pure H2O, but see, like even that we've put chemicals in it to clean it and everything. So,
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's like you couldn't even label water GMO in this day and age.
Well, absolutely. Except some water is okay. Another dip into the rabbit hole is there's different types of water. So we all know about the three major phases of water. There's a solid, a liquid, and a gas, right? There's a fourth phase of water discovered by a man named Gerald Pollack. And this fourth phase of water is almost like a gel, and it acts as a gel. And this
And
gel
it's just
has
pure H2O.
just H2O, but the molecules align themselves in a way, it's like a perfect crystalline structure. And this
Really?
carries information.
So it's pure H2O, and it's just like what type of gel? Like silly putty
Like,
kind of
yeah,
gel?
think of like a gel. Yeah, think of like Jello or a gel. Yeah, like, yeah. I
So
know.
I have a basic chemistry understanding. Break this
Hmm.
down to me, right? Because is there like a certain temperature it needs to be stored at, or is there like a certain way that the molecules are attached to each other? Like how does that work?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily a temperature thing, because we have it's called exclusion zone water, or EZ water. That is actually the water that is in our bodies. If you go to like a molecular level, we're 99% water molecules. We're basically like jellyfish, except we're
Really?
conscious monkeys on this podcast.
I love it. Great reference.
um, but so I would love to show you a photo, but I don't have one.
I could
Basically,
probably
the
look one up.
molecules, yeah, search up
What would I type in?
EZ water.
That's pretty
So
easy.
EZ, right? EZ exclusion zone. So what the exclusion zone means is that the water molecules, it's positive and negative charges, right? Everything has a
Okay.
polarity. And so EZ water is negatively charged. And then it pushes out an exclusion zone of ions.
Okay.
Are you
So how
finding
does
anything?
I'm finding some video pictures, but they're not like Oh, it looks like it's like almost the best example I could kind of describe is how like milk would separate, like the cream rises to the top kind of thing. It's
Absolutely.
almost like you're just skimming off like a section of the water.
Yes, but you're forcing out the positive ions or electrons,
Oh, okay.
to my understanding.
So it says there's a hydrophilic material that then you place next to the water, and then it would bring the negatively charged ions towards that material, and then you would just like take a section of that
In the lab setting, yeah.
in a
But
lab
in our
setting.
bodies, that happens naturally, which is extremely interesting. And then that gets into, like I mentioned earlier, your electromagnetic environment. EMF, non-native EMFs deplete the exclusion zone water in your body.
Okay, so let's take a quick step
I
back.
know. Yeah, totally.
So if I drink water, right, it's just going to have the positive and the negatively charged elements of the water
Yeah,
going
we
into me.
drink water, right?
Just any water.
Water.
And then inside my body, it's really only taking the negatively charged ions and using those for energy. And then am I like kind of peeing out the positive ions?
Nope.
No.
So okay. When we drink water, obviously we're absorbing those molecules and that, we're absorbing the water. But in our cells, I'm sure you remember from like 7th grade biology, there's the mitochondria in a cell.
The powerhouse.
And the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Exactly. And so mitochondria, when they're working properly, they produce metabolic water. They produce exclusion zone water. And if your mitochondria are functioning optimally, they will produce, I think it's like up to 17 liters of water a day.
They'll produce
so
17 liters.
The mitochondria produces its own water, produces water within our cells and within our bodies.
And so it's producing the exclusion zone water.
Yes.
And so what is it taking to transform into exclusion zone water? Just normal water?
So there's like a 5-step process where ATP, we all know about ATP,
enlighten me just in case.
Well, ATP basically is what they think gives us energy. ATP is a byproduct of mitochondria, but there's a 5-step process. And the 4th step of this process, they produce H2O.
The mitochondria produces H2O
the mitochondria
in the 4th step of this process.
Yeah.
So then would it be harmful or beneficial to drink easy exclusion zone water?
I honestly am not sure about that, but my personal opinion, and again, I know nothing, but I don't know if it would matter.
Not sure. Haven't gotten to that part of it yet.
Yeah. So your body, when it's exposed to sunlight, red light therapy, things of that nature, that expands the exclusion zone of the water in your body.
And real quick, I want you to give yourself some credit here. I don't want you going around saying you know nothing.
Well, but you know what I mean.
You taking some classes, right? I mean, you're not just pulling all this information out of thin air.
Totally. Yeah, I'm not channeling it.
You're not channeling it? That's for a different podcast.
Yeah, right. I mean, not my podcast.
Yeah, we've got those on coming in the future weeks.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, so a little teaser for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all right, so it feels like we kind of hit the bottom of that easy water hole, the bottom of the easy watering hole. So
it's just a taste of the easy hole.
Just a taste. I feel like I want to get my hands on it now. Have you tasted? Is it like readily available anywhere? Can you buy it?
I have not. No. Not at all. I'm just personally working to expand and optimize my mitochondria to just keep producing my own water. But I feel like I'm chronically dehydrated.
I have that same feeling sometimes as well. So what are maybe quantum biology things that we can do to have our mitochondria at optimal performance?
Mm-hmm. So that really is the crux of this whole thing, is how do we optimize our mitochondria so that they can continue to, help us? Because biologically speaking, I've heard people say that mitochondria are like basically their own little species, and we kind of like co-evolved with them. And so, yeah, right. But they're not necessarily human. They're like its own little thing.
What does that mean? Like there's other little things living inside us, or
Basically.
can they live on their own then?
That's a great question.
Like outside of the human? No,
yeah,
you're not sure.
I don't know. But it's like we co-evolved with the mitochondria because they obviously do so much for us. But so getting back to your question, with the quantum biology stuff, it's really important to get your light environment correct. That is getting proper sunlight, avoiding artificial lights at night. And we can go into some hacks around that because obviously we can't all be going to sleep at 6 o'clock at night. Grounding, getting in touch with the earth, spending as much time outside as possible, and ideally as much time outside away from the power grid and away from, power lines and Wi-Fi routers and all of that kind of stuff, because that disrupts it creates interference, from the sun and the things that we are absorbing in our atmosphere. It's all very woo-woo and fantastic. And my favorite part about it is that it's based in science.
That's the best part.
And yeah, right. And I know that you have an appreciation for that as well. You appreciate the woo-woo as well. But.
Yeah. And honestly, I keep saying, like, if I would look back on my life, 2 years ago, I'd be like, dude, Clayton, what the fuck are you talking about, man? Like, you're going off the deep end. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But it's such an element, right? Like, cause there is it's kind of like where the placebo effect lies. It's like, well, the placebo effect is a very woo-woo thing, but it is very real at the same time. Like,
and it's scientifically proven. Yeah.
Right. And I a couple things I want to get to here, but let's go back and let's finish up with the light. What was like some of the life hacks that we could do? Because I know for me, like, if sometimes I wake up before the sun even gets up, and I do my best to not even look at my phone, in the morning, to just to let the sun, wait until at least the sun's up to look at my phone, especially if I'm like waking up early. Sometimes I'll light candles. Would a candle kind of fall into that light spectrum of?
Candle is fantastic. Yeah. And if you think primally, every time I say that word, I think of Liver King. What up, primals? You follow Liver King?
Get your organs in.
Do you follow Liver King? I think he's ridiculous. Oh, you don't? Okay, well.
No. I'll have to check it
out. So candles are great. Our ancestors would have had, access to fire. Did they have fire all the time? No. A quick hack on your phone. So do you have an iPhone? Yeah, you have an iPhone. So you can set it so that your phone is in night mode. I have it set from 6 p.m. to 5:59 p.m. So there's 1 minute in the day where it is just a blue light screen, but other than that, it takes the tones out. And then also, you can go on your phone, and if I click my side button 3 times, it takes all the blue light out of the screen. So I would love to show you like how to do that, because then there's literally no blue light coming from my device. It's just straight red.
It looks red.
Start watching. It is red. It's completely red.
So I have a black and white filter. I guess what is it? Grayscale. Whenever I click my home button 3 times, it will do grayscale. Is that?
Yeah, I don't think that that's the same, because there still might be blue coming through. Okay. So this is like a red tint to the phone.
Okay. Well, honestly, I think that'd be super helpful for me. And so
totally
it might be helpful for everybody. Do we want to just walk through?
Let's just do it.
And so anybody that's listening can pick up their phone and do this with us.
Absolutely. I'm sorry.
So this only works for iPhones.
Yeah. Sorry, Droid guys.
iPhone warning.
Get on board. Get on board.
We need someone to balance it out. I think we need somebody to balance it out. We can't have monopolies, right?
That's what they want you to think, Clayton.
That's what they want me to think?
That's what they want you to think.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure out what I should be thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we got settings up. What's the next step?
We go to our settings. We're going to go all the way down to accessibility.
How far down is that? Oh, there it is. It's not too far down.
I said all
the
way down.
It's like in the third section.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so now you're going to go all the way down.
All the way down. Okay.
to accessibility shortcut, and it should have a color filters option. I've got it up on
Yeah.
the screen right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you click color
Okay.
filters.
Mine's
Then we're gonna
checked.
go back, and then we're gonna go to display and text size.
Now, is this on the front? Is this on the front page?
You're
and brightness.
still under accessibility. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
So under accessibility, display and text size.
Display and text size. Oh, I see it. It's at the top.
Yep. And then down to color filters.
Ah, okay.
So you want to put color filters on, and you said that you have the grayscale.
Yeah.
So I have.
Would it be the red green?
No. Mine's under color tint.
Okay.
And then you should be able to play around with that. And then at the bottom,
you can like change the intensity. Okay. And so you just have intensity all the way up.
And the hue all the way up.
Whoa.
And is yours red?
Yeah, it's red now. I got it red.
So now double click your button 3 times.
And what's weird about it?
And then it turns it off.
And it turns it back on.
Yeah.
And what's weird about that is like, oh my gosh. It's kind of hard to see the notifications, but what's so cool about that is like I can feel like that there's less strain on my eyes, like instantly. I don't know if anyone else listening feels that, but that's like I literally could feel like there's like I can look at it and there's literally less strain on my eyes now.
It's like a softer feeling. Yeah, like you don't. Yeah,
that's so cool. I always thought the grayscale. I thought it was so cool with the grayscale. I was like, oh, the colors they're trying to like use these colors to get your dopamine rushes going. But no, it's that's another element to it.
Yeah. Well, and so for those of us that don't want to look at the red all the time, obviously we have our night shift. So you can go into your settings and just manipulate the times for your night shift. And I have it from 6 p.m. until 5:59 p.m.
Okay.
So that there's 1 minute of it not. Another hack for the iPhones, because while we're on it, always want your brightness to be turned all the way up at all times.
All the way up?
Dim all the way up because it reduces the flicker. It reduces the flicker rate of your screen. When you dim things, it just has it increases the flicker rate to make it seem more dim, I guess. Same with LED light bulbs, which is why we don't fuck with it.
And that's why you can always see on my screen, you could probably see it flickering. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Yeah. So a great way to test this is you can get the slow motion on your phone, your slow motion video, and just videotape whatever you're questioning, and you'll see a flicker rate on it.
You can videotape.
Sorry?
How do you do that? You videotape.
So great example. I bought a red light panel. I did not buy a Juve or like the name brand ones because it's like $1,000, right? So I thought that I could like cut some corners, spend $300 on this red light panel. And I was talking to my friend, Dr. Corey Gasvini, who I've learned all of this stuff from. So everyone who's listening, his Instagram is at Optimal Light Doc on Instagram. He is just the craziest wealth of information and a really great friend. So shout out to you, Corey. Thank you for changing my life.
You're saying about the red light panel and you wanted to save money on it.
Yeah. So I asked Corey, I'm like, hey, what's the deal with this? Is this okay? He's like, take a slow motion video and send it to me. And the flicker on this thing was absolutely disgusting. He's like, honestly, that's going to do way more harm than good. And you need to get rid of that thing. Like because the flicker rate confuses your body. It's like, what's going on?
So break this down. Help me break this down at like a subatomic level. Is it like that? Is it, so it's like that okay. So light emitting diodes, LEDs, the way that works is through a signal getting processed through it. And because everything's like on AC, it's that sinusoidal function of it that is propagating the light bouncing out. And so it sounds like what's happening with this is that the slow motion camera is able to pick up those instances when it's on and when it's off. Exactly. And so our eyes are able to actually see that black space as opposed to it's able to see that black space.
Like our bodies can pick up on that, on the frequency, even though we can't see it and our eyes, just see light, that there's like, it's like a strobe light or something, but just way faster. And that's how LED lights, save energy, is because they just turn on and off a whole lot. But it's extremely
Okay.
confusing to your biology. I don't really know the deep science about it. You should have Corey on to talk in depth about this stuff because
I'll have to do
he's
that.
just fantastic. But so what I use is incandescent bulbs. Incandescent
Incandescent.
bulbs are like the what are they? Like the Edison bulbs.
Okay.
Um, where they have like it's a little tiny spark that's actually in there. So it's like a little tiny fire in your light. So that's way better because it's way lower on the flicker rate, and is like less disruptive to your system.
And so what I'm thinking about now is I love this conversation, but I feel like we need to try to at least push it
Totally.
in a way towards like consciousness and
Yeah.
spirituality.
1000%.
This comes down to essentially like making sure that you're, I guess, aligned with like almost the natural world and you're not getting all this artificial input. So then you're able to
Mm-hmm.
be more aligned and possibly even, it sounds like to me, what resonates with me is to be able to even get to like deeper spots in meditation because you're not having all of this, let's say, noise, coming
Totally.
into your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it absolutely will decrease the static of information coming in. And it will kind of like, it just smooths it out and gives it's what we were evolved to be in is a natural environment. So, not having your air conditioning on, being in your proper temperature, and having all of these things in place, not having artificial light, getting proper sleep. 8 to 10 hours sounds like a long time, and it is, but that's what our bodies are designed to do. Some people will argue that you only need 6 hours, and I'm not here for that conversation. But, you know, when you get in touch and in aligned with like the natural processes of the natural world, only then, in my opinion, can you actually like air quotes transcend and access the deeper levels of consciousness, that we are absolutely capable of tapping into. But I think that so many people are inflamed and tired and, just screwed up from the unnatural world, and just divorced from nature. So,
Yeah, in a way, I'm kind of thinking about it is there's this idea of like different density objects. Like there's first density, second so first density would be like rocks, trees, plants. Second density would be like animals. Third
mm-hmm.
density would be like humans. And then fourth density is like arguably, I think they say like Buddha and Jesus were fourth density, but it's like that element of love and so it's that
Mm-hmm.
transcending part. You can go up from there.
Mm-hmm.
But so with that being said, like, it's almost like these are elements that keep us trapped in third density, where it's like your body kind of needs to fight against these elements of this like material world that kind of are, it's like if you're, let's say, ascending, like literally think about somebody trying to ascend or go upward, but yet it's all this like frequency and noise that's
Energy.
coming into
Yeah.
that, yeah, into that energy. It's destabilizing and you can't like go
Mm-hmm.
straight up. You have to like go to the right and fix this, and you have to go to the left and take this out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're being bombarded with it 24/7 in your daily life, whether it's sugary food, whether it's this light issue that we're talking about, you're not getting enough water, it almost makes it impossible to transcend.
1,000%. And, it's instead of spending time focusing on meditation or reading books or not reading, which is something that's an interesting thought that came into my life recently, was to stop reading, to stop taking in information and to actually uh, put out information, write, talk. Like you are doing a great job of creating stuff instead of just taking in information all the time. But
Thank you.
so, we our bodies and you know our energy is being scattered in so many directions trying to pacify all of these things that are bombarding us, and we don't even know about them, but these studies have been done for a really long time. There's a book called Going Somewhere. The author escapes me, but this he wrote that book I think in like the 60s or 70s about electromagnetic fields, and he was just talking about power lines. He wasn't talking about your Wi-Fi router and your cell phone and your Bluetooth speaker and your AirPods and all of these things that are messing with your frequency, truly, like on an actual scientifically studied level. And so I think that until we are able to uh, correct these things in our environments, we can't really go up.
What do you think? Do you think there's like this? I don't know why I'm going to a conspiracy kind of point of
I
this.
love them.
You're
It's
on it.
hard to not.
Maybe that's why I am just feeling it. I'm feeling that energy. So do you think that? I guess it's like you say things like AirPods, like lights. Is it just a byproduct of like our evolution that we have found a way to integrate these things in society and like, okay, well, this is how electricity works, or okay, this is the best way we figured out to do lights, or, AirPods, for instance, which I've seen they put up like EMF meters and they go off the charts. It's like, I guess the conspiracy side of it is like, well, people are doing this on purpose so that other people can't transcend. But then where do you feel like you fall in line? Do you feel like it's purposely done to hold back the population from transcending, or is it more along the lines of just like this is a byproduct of like the products that we've created?
I love to think that people are true and good and moral, and AirPods are convenient. Like, I wore AirPods, I think, in our last podcast together. And then I learned all of this stuff and I was like, oh, no. And so I bought myself a new pair of wired headphones on Amazon, and I bought the little dongle to put it on my phone. And that's how I go on runs now. And it's not convenient. You have a wire, but so I think convenience is really the reason why all of these products have, come to market and why they're so popular. I mean, people don't buy stuff unless it works and makes your life easier, right? That's basically like how you sell a product. Does it make your life easier? Is it better? But I also am extremely, I question a lot of things. And I think that, yeah, this stuff is absolutely kind of pushed on us a little more because it does lower the frequency and does lower the vibration. And that brings me to, okay, EMFs, right? The non-native EMFs. I call my sister's AirPods her microwaves, right? Because what does a microwave do? It's basically the same thing. It just makes molecules vibrate really fast, and that's how it heats up food. And when I was wearing my AirPods, I would feel like my ears were hot. And I didn't know if I was like having like a placebo kind of thing because I knew that they were bad for me or not, but like my ears would feel hot. And then you've seen these studies and stuff online where people have the readers and they're just off the charts for these things because they are basically producing microwaves. That's what it is. So we have cell phone towers, we have satellites, we have 5G towers going up, which I don't really know if that's good or bad. We have all of this stuff, and the atmosphere of the Earth keeps trapping it in. So they're just bouncing up and down. So we're basically like creating a microwave. So that is one explanation for what's actually happening with the global warming situation, not animal agriculture.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I never thought about it at that level.
But it makes sense, doesn't
it? I'll say
like a Faraday cage.
I'll say I don't fully understand that science, right? Mm-hmm. Right, if we're producing certain frequencies that are meshing with I guess it would be the ionosphere or like a certain layer of the Earth's atmosphere. If it's hitting it at an incorrect frequency, then it would just repel it back down onto Earth. Like, for example, like that sphere, the ionosphere, I believe that's the correct terminology, but I know there's a layer. Yeah. Is that it?
I believe you're right.
Where it repels like majority of the sun's rays. That is essentially what keeps us safe. Exactly. That's why we don't.
Yeah, the solar radiation.
Up.
Exactly.
Right. Solar radiation. Wow. So if it's roughly in that same, holy shit, I never thought about this. Yeah, because if it's roughly at that same frequency, right? If it's a radiation frequency, it's not going to leave our atmosphere. Like even the whole nuclear thing that I guess happened at Chernobyl, it would be my assumption that would still be somewhere, and maybe it's like residue is like left majority. But if the ionosphere has been made in order to repel radiation from the sun, I assume that it's going to be a two-way protection system where it's also not letting things out.
Yeah. Right. And so we just have more technology, more of these things going up, and we're just creating more and more and more of this non-native EMF. And it's truly changing the frequency of like the planet. You know, it's
Right.
really, really nuts. And so they're saying, eat your Beyond Burgers and stop eating meat and eat your soy, and animal agriculture is bad. And for those of you who aren't familiar with me, I'm very big into animal-based foods and big into like animal-based diets and regenerative agriculture and those kinds of healing practices for the land. So that is where I get really annoyed, especially when these people are saying this with AirPods on the internet. You know what I mean?
Now this comes back to the whole, do you think the conspiracy, right? Is it one of those look over here at the food industry with meat and
Totally.
plants, or is it just ignorance? Do they just not think of it at this like electromagnetic level? Or do they, you know what I mean? Like, are they just capitalizing on, because I know, and here's what's crazy for me is I know there's so many different like vegan, like people who push veganism, and then they own their own like pea protein plant. And to me, it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, like I'm all for it. Like I if it works for you, like by all means go for it. But for me, it's like I'm not going to listen to someone who's also making money off of pea protein if they're, telling me I need to eat it. Um, so to me, it's like, all right, are they capitalizing on this whole global warming thing and trying to diverge attention from the technology whenever it's actually the technology, or do you think it's pure ignorance that they don't really know and it's just like, well, let's try to make money off the food industry right now?
Well, I'm completely deep in the conspiracy rabbit hole, and I definitely think that there's like a depopulation agenda going on. Um, you can look into Bill Gates and who he's funded by and his lineage and the people that he's associated with. Um, so yeah, I think that if I know about this stuff, then like, why would the most elite, powerful, smart people in the world not know about this stuff? Because I'm just a girl with a laptop in San Diego, California, and I just kind of stumbled into this. And there's people that do deep science on this kind of stuff. And I do believe that there is an agenda, which is why they're pushing the Beyond Burger and they're pushing people eating bugs and they're pushing, yeah,
Well,
you will have nothing and you will be
before
happy.
we talk too much shit on bugs, I've heard a lot of good things about like the idea of cricket protein and that it's like a
Oh,
complete
I've eaten it.
protein. Yeah.
It's delicious. It's called exoprotein. Yeah, because it's like the exoskeleton.
Okay.
And it's actually very sanitary because the bugs are grown in like a lab. However, that's not
Oh,
natural.
well, there you
Mm-hmm.
go. Well, and that's so there's a couple of things here that I want to touch on. Number one, I
Mm-hmm.
know in like maybe because this is a great way to link back to consciousness. So all animals, all plants, like have a form of consciousness, right? Like I find it interesting how people want to absolve the idea of like plants not being conscious. And yet it's like, okay, well, don't kill a cow because it's more conscious almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's been plenty of studies that have shown like where uh, they put like a plant next to a boiling pot of water and hooked up like EKG I think to the plant and dropped in shrimp, like live shrimp, and the plant had like a negative reaction to the shrimp going into like the boiling water.
That's crazy.
You haven't seen that? Oh, it's
No, that's fucking crazy.
there's like a whole book about like the way like inflicting pain on people around plants, and they pick up on that consciousness,
Totally.
like they feel those vibrations.
Mm-hmm.
And so this transitions into my next thing with like crickets, for instance, right? If we kill, let's say, one cow and it gives us, I don't know, let's say 1,000 grams of protein, roughly speaking. That's one instance of consciousness, let's say, that we are taking out or killing in order to
Mm-hmm.
supply 1,000 grams of protein. Well, then the question becomes is like, well, how many crickets do you have to kill in order to supply that same amount of protein, or even plants
Mm-hmm.
for that matter? Right? Because
Well,
arguably,
plants
and
would be exponentially more than
right,
crickets.
exactly. Those which crickets are going to be a huge number in the first place too. Like
Yeah.
it's got to be at least like I don't know a couple thousand crickets, and I know them hypothesizing here, but it's far more than one, right? And so then
Mm-hmm.
you can transcend that idea, and it's like, well, how are we like picking our judgment of where we get our protein from, and yet saying it's in the best interest of like not killing one thing, right? Because then you're killing thousands of things.
Totally. I mean, and I understand the moral ground for the vegan argument. I was a vegetarian for a long time when I first started learning about Buddhism and those kinds of philosophies. But when you get into the reality of how these vegetables are grown on these giant monocropped fields, and it's just, almond trees for miles and miles and miles, and there's no biodiversity in this land, there's no wildlife. The giant turbines that come and harvest these things kill everything in their path, so the bunnies and the crickets and the doggies and everything that's in there goes, gets ground up with everything else. So I think that we as a society have gotten, well, a society in America have gotten extremely soft when it comes to the reality of life. And that's that, there's a cycle and there's a circle of it. And when we are divorcing ourselves from nature, as we now are, and you go and pick up a Beyond Burger at the grocery store and you have your little badge of virtue on, that's cool. But like, there's major implications and there's a lot more to that than someone that grows and harvests their own animals.
I know this is something that you've probably posted before, but my big thing is looking at ingredients, like what's in it, right? And I think I know you had to have posted something like this before, where if you take a picture of like the ingredients of something like, beef, it's just beef. But if you take a picture of an Impossible Burger, that's a paragraph long of ingredients. It's just like, all right, well,
wheat, gluten, soy protein, things I can't even pronounce, like natural flavors, whatever that means.
Chemicals to make it look like protein.
Yeah. I recently stopped even eating natural flavors. Like I just buy plain LaCroix. I don't ingest any. I'm trying to get as away from the synthetic food as possible, but it's difficult sometimes.
How is there a way to tell? Because I know like super against like factory farming and all that stuff.
Totally.
Is there a way to tell if beef has been like factory farmed or even, given at least some amount of love while it was being, taken care of in some way, shape, or form?
On a label? No. And so that's when it becomes important, if that's important to you, to find a farmer and connect with somebody, or, get meat from a source. Like White Oak Pastures is a really great one. I know that Dr. Paul Saladino, Carnivore MD on Instagram, he gets a lot of stuff from there, and those are cows on grass in the sunshine. They have one bad day versus a cow in a feedlot lives in hell every single day. But if you want to go strictly on labels, like for the grocery store, you want to look for 100% grass-fed, grass-finished. Because you can say that beef is grass-fed because you fed them one blade of grass. They're not lying, but it's just cheaper for them, and that's what people do.
That's wild.
So 100% grass-fed, grass-finished is what we want. Because most cows actually are fed grass.
What does grass-finished mean?
So some people will feed they'll have their cows on pasture for like 80% of the time, and then the last like 2 or 3 weeks they'll feed them a bunch of grain to fatten them up.
Oh, so so they can be 100% grass-fed.
Well. Mm-hmm.
So they can be 100% grass-fed, but still get all that grain at the end of it?
Yeah, and that grain is not organic.
Oh my gosh.
It has glyphosate in there, which we can talk about glyphosate. That's a major
Is that what's
chemical.
in plastic? Is that what's in plastic?
Glyphosate is a pesticide.
Okay.
That is produced by Monsanto. And glyphosate is really bad for you because it makes its way into the collagen fibers of your body. And collagen is one of the big conductors of information throughout your body. So avoiding non-organic things, because glyphosate is not allowed in organic foods. But so my point with that being that those animals are fed corn and soy that are sprayed with glyphosate. So if it's in their tissues, it's going to make its way into yours.
Yeah, I know there's like what is it? Is it called collagen MCT or something? Is that I know there's like a Costco branded collagen. And it seems like it's just, I think it's called just protein collagen. Is that essentially what you're talking about? Like as a supplement?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of different kinds of collagen. Collagen is found in, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like cartilage and bones and, all that kind of stuff. So bone broth is a great source of collagen. Collagen's found like in tendons and ligaments and stuff in meat. So collagen is a source of protein. It's not extremely dense in protein. It usually has like 10 grams of protein per serving, but it's just really, really great for your body because it's full of really beneficial amino acids.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So what's like another, I kind of want to get back to the quantum biology. And so what's like another element of quantum biology that we could use to help elevate us or transcend to a higher frequency? Is that a big question? Is that loaded?
I don't think that there's just one thing that you can do. I think that if you're going to get into the rabbit hole, you just have to totally jump in with 2 feet, because it all kind of works together. I would say that getting in the sunlight is extremely important. Getting in the morning sunlight is very, very important. So waking up with the sun and exposing yourself to the sunrise, that is with no glasses, no contacts, no sunglasses. I recently stopped wearing my contact lenses altogether, and I only really wear my eyeglasses when I'm driving at night. My vision is not fantastic. It's not horrible, but I think I'm like a -1.5, to put it into perspective for people that have glasses. So signs are kind of blurry and things are blurry. So I do wear my glasses when I'm driving because I don't want to injure people. But your eyes are a major key of understanding the sunlight. Understanding meaning like on like a physiological level. Because when your eyes are exposed to the sun, you have a thing in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. And that talks directly with your hormone system, your endocrine system. So I'm currently reading a book called Health and Light by John Ott, OTT. And this book is just blowing my mind. And he did a lot of experiments based around light, obviously, health and light. And he had an anecdotal study where his arthritis is absolutely horrible. And then he lost his glasses and he started feeling better. And he's like, wait, the light that's going into my eyes has been being manipulated by this glass, which is why every window in my house is open, because the windows block part of the spectrum of light. So same thing with sunglasses. Like that's a chronic issue. It's stylish and I miss them sometimes, but I don't wear sunglasses, I don't wear contacts, and I don't wear glasses so that my eyes get the full exposure.
I tried to stop wearing like sunglasses because I felt like it was like eye contact was important to me. So I was like, if I'm wearing sunglasses, can't see people's eyes.
On a conscious level, absolutely.
Yeah. To connect with people, it's like if you don't see my eyes, it's like, it's like this level of like trying to be cool or like almost insecurity at a level. And maybe I'm projecting myself here, but insecure to be able to like make solid eye contact with somebody else.
Earlier, I was walking. I would go for a walk every morning, and I was walking, and I was passing somebody on the road, and I like looked at them, and I like looked on the ground, and I was like, I wish I had a hat on. Like I don't want to look at that right now. And then I had thought about it. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like that's interesting that I just felt that.
Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But there's actually a really interesting, and this is actually probably crazy, and this is a great way we can tie in this whole eye thing into what consciousness. I was reading a book called Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender. Have you seen that one?
No.
Very good. It's just core concept. He's got like, it's a pretty thick book, but the core concept that you pull from it is just like letting go, just observing feelings as they come up, not like labeling them, whether it's pain in your body, whether it's an emotional feeling of a situation, and just kind of just being in that state of pure presentness. Well, I read like probably 95% of the book, but the last 5%, I like just recently came back to and was like, oh, I should probably finish this up. Who knows? This little spark of divination came into me and was like, hey, read this. Well, at the end, he talks about how he was like giving this lecture on stage, and it's all about healing, right? It's all about healing with your mind and letting go. And someone from the audience said, well, if you're able to heal so much and just let go, then why do you still wear glasses? And he was like, shit.
Called him out.
Yeah. He did. Oh my gosh. And he's like, you know what? You're right. And so what he did was he took his glasses off. This is what he wrote down and what he claimed. took his glasses off and said, okay, I'm not going to use glasses anymore. And his whole core concept was, okay, I'll see things when I need to see them, right? If they're blurry and too far away, then I don't need to see them yet.
Whoa.
That's a deep thought too.
Powerful. I love that for myself.
He then goes into the idea of like driving. He talks about that where it's like, okay, yeah, you're going to have to go slower at first. Like, you can't like go fast. And again, it goes into just being present. You don't have to be in a rush. Like, I'm like, all right, I vibe with this. And he says that he has told this to countless people. I didn't get a number, but essentially within 6 weeks, without using your glasses, vision completely returns to people and they're able to see again.
I believe that. I have a book called Better Eyesight Without Eyeglasses, and it is called The Bates Method. And that philosophy is that basically the muscles in our eyes is not on point. And so you can do specific exercises. So in astigmatism, you have a long eye. But so are the muscles in your eyes contracting too hard and making them long, And so that's a really interesting concept as well. It's like, that's so sick though, 6 weeks. That's
so
cool.
Sad.
I've been doing this for a couple months and my eyesight, honestly, I don't think it's gotten much better, but I've gotten used to it being not sharp.
Do you feel like you've been like squinting or?
Totally, 1,000%.
See, okay,
but I'm also sorry.
So I think that's a huge part of it because I know before I got glasses, like when I was in grade school, like middle school maybe, like I would always squint really hard to see things, and the strain that puts on your eyes actually can cause like headaches. Like I was getting really bad headaches just from squinting for majority of the day. So I think, and I would challenge you to do this, is to let go and just don't squint.
Just to let go. If I need to see it, I'll see it.
Exactly.
If I'm meant to see this, then I'll see it.
Exactly.
That's insane. That book kind of sounds like The Untethered Soul, which you and I have talked about, that we were both reading, where it's just kind of like, your thoughts are your thoughts. They're not who you are. It's not part of your identity. That's your ego trying to label that. That book is sick.
Yeah. I feel like it also ties in kind of the Power of Now a little bit. Like, like Power Now feels like it's a little bit more about like the fact that time's an illusion. I would say then Untethered Soul is a little bit more about like your journey through life and how to use these practices throughout your life. And then letting go is almost like pretty much disidentifying with like yourself, disidentifying with anything that you like hold on to, I guess.
And that's the hard work, right? The dissolving of the self and the ego. Like I've been going through some life shit lately, as we all are always. And it's just like, who am I? Like, what do I want? Like trying to just channel it. And so that's also where this quantum biology comes in for me. I'm just trying to shake off the dust and clear out all the external stuff so that I can properly receive the messages that I meant to,
That's hard to do. I just had like a hypnotherapy session. I forget who I was telling. Oh, maybe I was talking about it was pretty cool. Actually, the girl I just released today, it was the lady who did it.
Cool.
Yeah. First of all, she has a super dope story in and of that self. Dr. Ann Balkonsky. I don't remember if it's Balkonsky or Balkansky. Sorry, Ann. I know she's listening. But that was like a huge thing that I like kind of went through was like, in my current situation, like I know I'm doing what I need to do with like the podcast and everything, but like there's this level of comparison with other people. There's this level of like, well, they're younger and they've done this, or I see someone who has uploaded 500 podcast episodes and I feel like mentally I should be at the same place as them, even though I'm at 50. And what came from that was like really identifying like where this energy of societal pressure I was putting on myself versus just trusting the process. And it's like, no, this is like, you're doing what you need to do. You're following your highest self, your guide, whatever. And like all this other noise is just society. You could kind of relate it back to the to the frequency of the EMFs.
Well, totally. And I was just talking with somebody today because one of my friends, I was saying all my things that I was doing today. They're like, "What are you up to?" I was like, "Oh, this," and they're like, "Do you ever just like chill?" And I was like, honestly, no, because I put too much pressure on myself to just hyper perform, and then I feel like I never have a time to just have a breath, because it's just probably comparison and being unhappy with where I currently am, like
I mean, but do you meditate? Do you
I do
meditate?
meditate. Yeah.
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 I mean, this is me projecting again, so take it or leave it.
Throw it on me.
Yeah, but it's a combination. For me, it was a combination of like that societal pressure of like,
Mm-hmm.
I should be further, I should be doing more, like da da da,
Totally. Yeah.
which becomes this internal pressure as well.
Yeah.
But then another element is like, being easy on your. I need to bring somebody on who actually was like a software engineer, created a startup company, and he's now in this whole like consciousness realm. And
Cool.
something I really want to ask him, because I'm still trying to figure this out, is the idea of hustle culture. Like to me, I,
Mm-hmm.
I, I feel like, and it's hard for me to confirm this because I have yet to like, I don't have like on paper, I don't have like $1 million business to my name. But to me, it feels like hustle culture just, it doesn't feel aligned, at least to me. It doesn't feel like something that's like, okay, it doesn't make sense to me that if all of this is just a game in a sense, like I kind of see life as a game anymore. Like it's just fun. It's a game. It doesn't make sense to me that we should be spending what you look at all these people like Elon Musk, Gary Vee. It's like, well, you should be working every single second of the day to make your life happen. And this is every motivational speaker
Mm-hmm.
is like, yeah, if you're not putting in 100-hour, work weeks, then you're not going to make it happen. And to me, it's just like, it's just like too much. It just feels overwhelming.
Would you say that Gary Vee is a definition of hustle culture? I've never even heard that term before.
I think so. I mean,
Or a great example.
well, something that's popping into my head is that a video he did where he's like, in the big picture, like years, he's patient. But then he says day to day, he feels like he needs to get everything done. Like everything needs to happen. He needs to be able to do as much as he can in a day. And to
Mm-hmm.
me, like, I get it, but like, I don't know. Like, and so it's hard for me, right, to say he's wrong because look at him. Like he's got millions of followers. He's, made
And
businesses.
dollars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But to me, it's just like, especially from like a creative place, if I was to just record a podcast every single day, I mean, I kind of want to, but if it's not coming from a place of like love and enjoyment, then like,
Mm-hmm.
am I just like I feel like I'm almost wasting time or wasting energy. And then that's going to compound itself because you're just building up all this, like, I don't know. I don't know. To me, there's something wrong with hustle culture in a sense.
I was just thinking that like maybe they do get enjoyment out of that, and so that is aligned for them. But for people like, I mean, I'm totally with you. Like if I'm gonna hustle, like I want to grind for you know a little while, and then I want to take a break and like go to the islands. But like maybe Gary Vee really does enjoy the hustle, but that message isn't for everyone. And I think that that's a big thing that needs to be maybe just like addressed in our culture, is that like it's not a one size fits all for anything or anybody, you know? So with food, there's no one size fits all diet. If you feel great on vegan, then do that. Cool. But like if you feel great working your ass off all day every day, do that. Awesome. But like that message of, that everybody should be doing that is I think where the dissonance comes in, and where the imposter syndrome kind of happens too, of just like, what am I even doing? I'm nobody and I don't belong here.
It's
We're
very
not doing
wise.
that.
It's very wise
Yeah.
of you, Hannah.
Thank you.
Well, because and I guess maybe a corollary of it is it makes it feel to me as if that's the only way to be successful. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
probably where, and I'm going to project this onto you just because of this, how this conversation
Mm-hmm.
started, is that it's like if we're not, doing something every minute of every day of our waking day, then it's like you're losing that time. It's like you lost that time. Like you're never going to get it back. Like
Well, you have to define success too.
it's important.
That's, I hear Jordan Peterson in my mind, it depends on what you mean by success.
That was a great impersonation.
Thank you. But seriously though, like what is your idea of success? Because for me, I just want to feel happy. I want to have enough money. I want to like have a great community. I want to have loving relationships and close friendships. But for some people, success is that they want a freaking yacht. And that'd be cool, but that's not my benchmark. Success for me is being able to teach people and impact lives in a way that, you know, transforms other people's ability to be and the way that they perceive this world, because we're only here for a little while. So
Only, what is it? It's like, I actually just did the math the other day. It's like 90 years is like 36,000. It's probably a little bit less, but it's about 35,000 days. 90 years is about 35,000 days,
that's crazy.
right? That puts shit
That's
in perspective.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why for me, I feel like I just try and be hyper productive because like, man, I
But
only got
my mindset,
35,000 of these.
yeah, but my mindset is like, but don't you want to be enjoying every minute? Like if you're just sitting
Right.
there grinding,
Stressing.
it's like
Yeah.
you're just, and stress is probably something we could talk about at a quantum biology level, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like stress in itself is just gonna, well, it's gonna do some pretty gnarly shit to your internal, physiological
Stress can
makeup.
make people diabetic.
Probably
Yeah.
give some cancer.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the cause of cancer.
Yeah. Because the high cortisol just really messes with everything as far as your hormones go. And your hormones are basically your existence, as a woman. And for any women listening, just as much as I do that we've got great hormonal fluctuations and it really does affect the way that you perceive the world and your mood and how you feel and think. Like your hormones are everything. So yeah, stress is a big one.
And then you're bringing up hormones, and this is something that resonated with me because I wanted to bring it up. The soy increases estrogen levels. Is that true?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. It
So
it mimics estrogen in the body.
it
And
mimics
so
estrogen.
that can be really great for menopausal women because their estrogen levels are getting weird and tapering off and whatever. But I think that for young adults such as ourselves, it's best to avoid these things. I do think that fermented soy, so things like natto, I don't know how to pronounce it, and tempeh, those are like fermented soy products. I think the fermentation kind of helps to cut some of that out. But honestly, I'm not a big soy person. I
Yeah,
have soy jack in my head, that meme.
soy jack. I don't know that one.
Okay, well,
I'll just save it for another day.
bookmark that.
Because then the thing that also comes to mind is like soy. Is it lichen? I feel like that's in everything.
Lecithin?
Lecithin. Is that how you pronounce
Something?
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that kind of fall
I
into
think
the
it's
same
soy
realm?
lecithin. That is a chemical laboratory derivative of a whole food.
Oh,
So
say no
I don't,
more.
yeah, yeah.
I don't think you need to say anything
Yeah, I
else
don't
about
think
it.
that aligns.
Let's avoid that. But yeah, so then if we get back to quantum biology,
Mhm.
you started off by saying quantum biology was everything except for what would you say, diet and exercise?
Yeah, pretty much, in my opinion. Obviously, food and exercise play a great role in a healthy, optimal life. But
So then is quantum biology like a new subsection of
mm,
health or something? Like how did it kind of start maybe?
how did it start? I have no idea. Like the field of it in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure. Um, but I do know that it. So it's basically like your environment. So it's like the environmental piece of the wellness puzzle. You have diet, exercise, emotional well-being, uh, community, all of that stuff. But then you also have your environment. So your light environment, your lack of light environment. John Ott in that book, Health and Light. Uh, he said a term the other day that I wrote down called malillumination. Like
Malillumination.
people malillumination. So like people getting bad light, artificial light, fluorescent light, LED light, TV screens, cell phones, bad light, and then also like lack of sunlight because you need sunlight. Obviously, we all have heard about vitamin D, but there's also nitric oxide that's produced in your skin, which is beneficial for metabolizing carbohydrates and deuterium. Deuterium is a heavy hydrogen isotope, which I would love to be able to go into, but I honestly am still understanding what it is.
We'll save that for the next time.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what's interesting about all this light stuff and like your environment is, especially now that I'm on like this traveling, binge, I've been in San Diego, what, 2 times in the last like 5 months. And
Yeah.
the other 5 months I've been either in Pittsburgh or in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which both
Mm-hmm.
have been cold and don't get as much sunlight. And
Mm-hmm.
what I noticed is that when I've been in San Diego, like I've had the energy to work out 2 or 3 times a week. But whenever I'm in like Pittsburgh or Jackson Hole, well, Jackson Hole's a little bit different because I was skiing. But in Pittsburgh, like if I work out 3 times a week, like going to jujitsu and stuff, like that's like good. Like for me to get like stuff done, like, I'll work out a little bit, but the amount that I
Mm-hmm.
work out in Pittsburgh is like drastically lower than like in San Diego.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Well, in San Diego, you also like go for walks outside and you're by the ocean, and being at the beach is really fantastic because there's less electrical interference and there's less EMFs. There's no Wi-Fi routers in the ocean, so that's a really great way to like ground and get
I didn't
in
even think
touch
about
with,
that.
like get in touch with like actual nature. And Pittsburgh, I've never been, but it's a big city, and I'm sure you're just kind of in concrete jungle land.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
it's cold.
more than
So
San Diego. Yeah. So it's like all
yeah.
those elements go against you.
Yeah, and you're probably inside more with more artificial light and less exposure to the natural world.
I
So that
mean,
would explain.
yeah, right now I've got a bunch of lights and then these LEDs that I didn't even realize how
Sorry
bad
to
they
bug
were
you
for
out,
me.
man.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Just buy some Edison bulbs. On Amazon, I bought a 6-pack. I think it was like $30, and I only needed 2. But
Medicine bulbs?
I actually Edison
Edison bulbs.
Yeah,
Is there
incandescent Edison bulbs.
So if you're in a situation where you like have to, for some reason, you have to be around LEDs, you have to be on artificial light, is there a way to kind of like purge that energy like out of your system?
Yeah, so the best way to mitigate that would just be to spend time outside after for as long as possible and expose yourself to earth. So take off your shoes, be in the sun, no sunglasses, no contacts. But that's really like the best and only way. You can also get red light, so like a Juve or something, or like a red light uh, therapy device kind of thing. And the red light will help to balance out the spectrum of the lights that are in your environment. So like if you had a red light in with those LED blue lights, it would kind of help to balance out the color spectrum of the lights coming into your environment versus you just having the blue,
Yeah, you
and
mentioned.
without looking like, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that you mentioned the red light earlier. Is that, and I guess I didn't really know what it was, but is that just literally a light that is red that is just kind of off balancing the blue light that's from majority of these things that we can barely see? Or
So the red light therapy devices are red light and then near infrared light devices. So okay, great example is if you put your finger over a flashlight or your hand over a flashlight, like you can see the light through your finger, right?
right.
Meaning that's proof that light goes through your body. So the different wavelengths of light hit different parts of your body. Blue light, I think, is one like goes the deepest. Red light really just kind of stays towards the top, but it increases blood flow, and it's just generally really, really great for well-being and for healing. Like injuries, scar tissue will decrease with the use of red lights.
Really?
Joovv, yeah, Joovv. That is like one of the best companies.
Gotta look
But
this
I
up.
think that I think that their smallest light is like 900 and something bucks. Yeah, right.
No,
So
I was going to put a
it's worth
price on
it.
health, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. But I honestly, so the sunrise and the sunset has red light. It's mainly red light. That's why you can look at them, because there's no UV and there's
Okay.
just blue light. So you can think about light as like a spectrum, and the blue light is the highest at solar noon, is the strongest blue light that you get from the sun. Because the sun obviously contains the full spectrum of light. So yeah, there is blue light in the sun, but it's not just blue. And that has a peak, and then it goes down. And then that's why at night, incandescent bulbs, red lights, red phone screens. I have blue light blocking glasses that are actually, the lenses are red. I look like a psychopath, but I don't care because it helps to truly like, so street lights are all LED now. So when I'm driving at night or if I go out, sometimes I'll wear my red ones in the bar even.
Could look kind of cool.
Out mingling with friends.
Especially in San Diego.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It totally fits the vibe. I fit in right in Ocean Beach.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so red lens blue light blockers go on at sunset, so that my natural circadian rhythms of my body know what time it is.
I like that idea. I mean, even if you're just walking around the house, that feels like that could help protect you from, all these things.
1,000%. And they have blue light blocking screen protectors that you can get, like for your TV, for your computer. I think it blocks 50% of the blue light that comes through that. So that's also another cool hack for like the modern lifestyle, because, I watched a movie last night, but I just had my red ones on.
Just had the red glasses on.
And I fell asleep within the first 10 minutes. So
classic. And then this brings up the idea, and this is an idea that I'm very new to, but I actually asked my Instagram followers. It seemed like majority of people have heard about it, but the idea of sun gazing. What can you tell us about that?
Gaze into the sunrise and the sunset. I think that it is probably very not good for you to gaze at the high noon sun.
And eyes are open whenever you're sun gazing, or they're closed?
I mean, to gaze is to look at something, right? I think that it would be eyes open. I don't know. I'm not a sun gazer. So if any sun gazers are listening, get on here so I can hear you talk about it.
All right, we'll find somebody. Well, because go ahead.
No, continue.
Well, I was just going to say that I got introduced to it because I read somewhere that some guy, he got studied for 120 some days. People followed him for 24 hours. And he didn't eat at all, barely drank water, and got all of his energy literally just from sun gazing. He would look at the sun. I couldn't find too much information about the process of it. If he's closing his eyes, how long is he looking at the sun? But it sounds like he was probably in a deep ketosis, and his mitochondria were on point producing that metabolic water, and your mitochondria get their information from the sun. So he probably had a sweet exclusion zone in his water, a big exclusion zone, and his mitochondria are on point producing metabolic water for him. And again, deep in ketosis. Oh, so then would being in ketosis,
it's a long time.
Well, he said he's done it for longer than that. That's just how long they tracked him for. That's how long they were watching him.
Is this the next Jesus?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I'll have to find him and send you a link. Yeah. Sun vibes. That literally, right? Jesus the Son.
The sun. I know. Dude. Yeah. The Bible is sick. That book is a cool book.
It's that thing's wild on different levels.
Yeah, it's sick.
Yeah, and then the church came in and was like, nope, we're going to use it as a mode of control. But
yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's actually something that I never talk about, is my spiritual practices and the fact that I do enjoy the Bible, and I think that Jesus rocks, and the other day so I work at a bar at night, and so that's one of the toxic things in my life that I'm really needing to switch up, because I can't keep doing that knowing what I know about quantum biology. But it's crazy how the bills just don't stop whenever your life changes and you get new information. So still working in the restaurant, but somebody was saying, if you could have 3 people on a couch to talk to, what 3 people would you have? From history, they could be real or fake, dead or alive. Who would you have on your couch? And so my first one, I said Mulan, because Mulan is that's my favorite Disney movie. I'm not a weird Disney person, but I just think that she was just a badass. And that's just what came to me in that moment. I was like, Mulan would be sick to have on there. And then I said Jesus, and they were like, okay, you're weird.
You're in a bar. You can't say that.
You're weird. Yeah. And then I said I would like to want to meet one of my dead grandparents, because whatever. Yeah. But point of that being is I said that I would want Jesus on my couch of people to ask questions to, and they were just oh, whoa, okay.
We thought we knew you.
Doesn't have to be weird. Doesn't have to be weird, man.
It doesn't have to be weird. No, but we can definitely jump into that, because I feel there's a conscious element. I don't know if I've really talked about it that much on this podcast, but there's definitely a lot of metaphysical truths that are within the Bible. And bringing up the person you brought up earlier, Jordan Peterson, that's where my mind kind of got just ripped apart. I think 2017, 2018, I started watching just all of his lectures, and I was dude. I was like, damn, like, so the Bible's like legit. Like, there's a lot of deep truths in it that we
Deep.
have somehow tried to make as being like, oh, well, this didn't literally happen. Like, the universe wasn't literally made in 7 days. And it's just like, now
Mm-hmm.
looking back, it's like, how did we get here? Like, science
Yeah.
almost tried to like change the Bible in a sense.
Well, I think that people are taking this book very literally, and I don't think that it's a literal book at all. I mean, people say that Jesus turned water into wine. Do I think that he literally made something clear purple? No, but I think that being in his presence was just so fantastic that water felt like wine. I think that it's like more, it's not literal. I think that it's very up to like, you know, the spiritual interpretation, the spiritual text.
And that's actually a really good like point that I don't think I've thought of it in that sense before, because when you are around people that are more, let's say, enlightened or more
Mm-hmm.
transcendent, like you can feel their energy, like you
Yeah.
become in this uplifted state like yourself as well, which
Yeah.
is fascinating
Great.
in its own rights.
Well, yeah. And so it's just like, just drinking water felt like wine because it was just so fantastic to be around this person. But, I know you are into Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Yeah.
as am I. And he's done a lot of work with the Heart Math Institute. And, they've measured the heart field goes 6 feet around your body in some instances. And when I'm really like tapped in, tuned in, turned on, I really feel it in my heart, and I can feel my heart field. And so that probably was it as well, because if you're within somebody's electromagnetic field that they're producing from their heart, like that would absolutely have an effect on yours as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's just pure. And you can look at that in a negative light, right? Majority of us are surrounded by negative people. And even take
1,000%.
maybe your bar friends, for instance, where
Mm-hmm.
they're casting that projection of like, who's this weirdo? And then you take that on. Like, it becomes
Yeah.
a part of you. And it's not, the, I guess, healthiest, right? To be in this state or in an environment where you feel
Mm-hmm.
judged or criticized or,
Yeah.
like
Well, but
denormalized.
that's where dropping the ego comes in, where it's like, okay, yeah, you think that I'm weird, but I think that I'm cool. So I'm sorry that, like, not I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but it's just like, cool. Like, I'm just going to let that one roll off my back because Jesus would definitely still be on my couch, whether you think it's weird or not. And if you wanted to talk to me about it, I'd love to,
My
but
couch
we
isn't
probably
changing.
aren't on the same level. My couch stays.
The
Okay.
couch stays. This is my panel.
Yeah, right. This is my panel.
No, and I mean, what's interesting too is you alluded to it, but maybe it would be interesting to see like the differences between somebody who's like maybe in more of like a victim consciousness or more of a fear-based reality, and then somebody maybe at the level of Joe Dispenza or even Jesus
Mm-hmm.
for that matter, and being able to like sit them down and test the strength, I guess, of their heart or the
Mm-hmm.
energy of that torus that's being expanded from there.
Absolutely. There have been tests that have been done on water, kind of circling back to that. I forget what his name was, but I believe it was a Japanese scientist.
Yes.
There's a book called The Shape of Water. Yeah, you
Was
you
it
know,
was it hidden messages in water? Maybe
maybe.
he had two. He might have had multiple.
Yeah, there's definitely one called The Shape of Water. Basically they take water, purified water, just from the same source, and they speak blessings over it, they pray over it, they speak kind words over it, and then they flash freeze it. And the things that had positivity on it froze in like beautiful, like snowflake looking, like sacred geometrical patterns. And then ones that were exposed to like, damnation and curse words and low vibrational things froze in these like really gnarly, like kind of scary looking patterns. And so going back to, if our bodies are 99% water, the thoughts that you think are shaping that water in your body. And so that's where, positive affirmations and good vibes, like that stuff is getting really kind of played out, but it truly, I feel like, does matter. Your thoughts truly do create your reality. And that's in a physical way as well, as far as the shape of your water goes.
Yeah, and I mean, that book tells you the same thing. Like, it's cloudy and murky. And that's
Yeah.
even like kind of the weird thing about it too, is like, yeah, and maybe that's something they should have also measured is like their energy associated with like, I guess the words would have brought out the association in water though too. Because like just placing the label, because I'm thinking about they place a label of like love, or a label of hate.
I have love and gratitude on my water that
Yeah.
I just wrote, why not?
I should probably get a sticker
try.
and put that on mine.
Right? I know. Yeah.
Just on that water bottle, because it just increases your frequency and you're seeing it more, and it's like a nice reminder.
Absolutely. And just having gratitude, and that circles back into like a common practice with Christianity is people praying before they eat food and just having a moment of being thankful and grateful. And whenever I've done that, especially if I do that with friends, it's like the food just tastes better, and I feel like it assimilates better.
Well,
being grateful is a big deal.
Yeah, and I think there's got to be something here with, like, being grateful for your food. I'm all on board. I've actually, like, the first thing I do when I wake up now is like list off like things I'm grateful for before I even
just started doing that recently.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. How have you seen your life change from doing that?
It just is a great perspective shift. I just started writing in my journal just 3 things that I'm grateful for, whether it's my body or my home or my ability to learn or whatever comes to me. The sun I wrote the other day, and just all of that beautiful information that my body downloads effortlessly, from it. And so I just feel like it sets the day right. It's better than opening up Instagram and getting caught in the scroll hole first thing.
That's really like, and that's actually funny you say that, right? Because I know maybe about 5 years ago, that would have been me. The first thing I would do is grab my phone, pick up Instagram, pick up whatever, and look at it. But now it's like the shift is now, okay, I wake up, say what I'm grateful for, meditate, maybe stretch, try to avoid all light at this point, and then it's like wait until the sun comes up. And it's so crazy, like just that, I guess that shift of like how many little things go into changing like this. That could be just a 30-minute process at the beginning of your day, 45 minutes, but that sets the tone for everything. Like that changes the entire day, even though there's only, about 35,000 of them, but that changes your entire life. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I sleep with my phone in airplane mode, because I don't want the cell phone to be going off. I unplug my Wi-Fi router every night. But so keeping my phone in airplane mode has been a really huge thing for me too. Just to like not check it first thing in the morning, because I don't have any notifications to look at. You don't have any at all. We were actually just talking about that before you started recording, about how you just don't have any notifications on your phone whatsoever.
Do not disturb, baby. Yeah. Yeah, you have to like make an effort. Like, you have to, for me to see notifications, I have to unlock it, swipe up, press in the PIN code, and then swipe down to bring up like the whole notification screen, which is just a process.
Do you not do Face ID either?
No.
Me neither.
That's the easiest stuff to biohack.
Yeah.
People don't realize that. And it's like,
yeah.
You could just like take someone's phone and just put it up to their face. And it's like, all right, what was the point of that?
Yeah. Right.
And I'm sure there's a bunch
never guess my 4-digit password.
I would never.
No, I'm just kidding. It's like a 4-digit thing, I'm sure. We'll guess credit card numbers and get them right,
I think there's also an element, if you want to take this to a place of conspiracy theories, like I don't know. To me, it's like I don't want to set up things with like my fingerprint or my face. Like,
yeah, I just saw this video about like the Chinese surveillance systems, that they have in place in China, and they know where everybody is at all times, and they're doing the social credit score thing. They're betaing that in some of the bigger,
are they really
bigger small cities? Yeah, I saw this whole thing, and
gosh,
this one man was a journalist who was, not for the communist government, and he has a shitty social credit score, so he can't even get on the train.
It's so fucked up.
Like that's literally happening. It's not even a conspiracy theory. Like that's just a fact.
All right, well, I'm going to take a second. So, I don't remember which episode it is, but there's a Black Mirror episode that talks about that, the social credit score. If you're listening and haven't seen that, go watch it right now.
I can't do that show, dude. I cannot. It freaks me out.
Well, you should.
But I will watch this episode.
Watch the social credit. I kind of want to take a second to even just look up which episode.
Do it.
It's so wild because it's about this chick who, it's like out of 5 stars. Every interaction you have, you like rate it on a star system.
Oh, yeah. And then she goes crazy and like tries to crash the wedding or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. She gets invited to her friend's wedding, and her friend's like a 4.8 and she's a 4.3, and like, we'll
say less about that.
Okay.
That's so crazy.
Wow. The first article, Black Mirror predicted a social credit system But what
Yeah.
episode was it? Sorry, guys, for the bad radio, but which episode was it? All right, well, I don't want to give you guys too much of bad radio.
It's in the first season.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, it's in the first season.
Whoa, coming soon, America's own social credit system. All right, guys, let's make a pact right now to not do this.
Hold on, that's crazy.
Let's see here. The new quote unquote domestic war on terror, kicked off by the riot on January 6th, this was probably from whenever Trump was leaving office, I assume.
Yeah, when all of those people were let into the White House.
Yeah, here, China's social credit system is a combination of government and business surveillance that gives citizens a quote-unquote score that can restrict the ability of individuals to take actions such as purchasing plane tickets, acquiring property, or taking loans because of their behaviors.
Like a COVID passport.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Is that not a vaccine passport?
It's probably worse. I mean, this is probably even worse than that, right? Because...
Well, and that's already happening in China.
Yeah, which... let me see here. Oh my gosh, PayPal, what are you doing? Last week, PayPal announced a partnership with the left-wing Southern Poverty Law Center to, quote, investigate the role of, quote, white supremacist propagators of this is still about the whole January 6th thing.
Are there any, like, recent ones? I guess that's pretty recent.
Yeah, maybe they got too much backlash from this and people were like, oh, America's not ready yet.
Well, for me with those things, like, it's kind of like Boston Dynamics with those the AI robot kind of things. Like what they show you is definitely just the tip of the iceberg based on like what's actually going on. So,
well, that's interesting in its own rights, is like robot consciousness. Like
miss me with that. That's terrifying.
Well, yeah. I mean, and even more so, right? Like as we were kind of just describing at the beginning of this, right? The first, like, one-dimensional consciousness is like, you know, inanimate objects like rocks or like, I guess trees technically, but those might be like on the bridge of 2D consciousness. But like even like a water bottle or a microphone or, you know, your phone that you have in your hand, like, isn't there a level of consciousness associated with even just those things where, you know, the fact that it's material matter that we're able to consciously observe, does it not make like it?
I don't think so.
No.
In my opinion, I would say no, because it is fabricated. So like, yeah, there is like a quartz crystal in my phone to like, right? That's like what the chips are made out of, isn't it? Quartz. So I guess.
Yeah. We'll say yeah. I know silicon's used for like the chips.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But there might be quartz in there somewhere.
Either way, like minerals harvested from the earth.
Sure.
So I guess you could say that there is like technically a consciousness to it, but I don't know. I just don't feel like it's the same as like something that's actually alive and like, you know, like a blade of grass or a butterfly or something that is in touch and in tune with nature and has a cycle. Because this phone, if I have an old phone in my drawer and it's just still there, it doesn't need anything, you know, it doesn't need water or sunlight or even a charge to like exist. So I don't know if that can really like, yeah.
Well, I mean, at some point, do you feel like there's going to be like rights for? Well, there was a really good movie that was in this realm. It had who was the Osmic kid? It had Chris Tucker was in it. It had the Osmic kid. I'm butchering it, but there was some movie that was like about like, you know, is there at any level that we give like rights to, you know, AI or artificial intelligence? Because if it's able to, let's say, replicate human behavior and emotions, like at some level, it might become indiscernible from humans, like from people. So like at some place on the ballot, there's probably going to be people arguing that like robots should get like rights in some sense, right?
I mean, yeah, but that, you know, humans don't even have rights in some places in the world. Like, we're kind of putting the cart before the horse, in my opinion, with that whole thing. I mean, it's absolutely, I'm sure, going to happen. Because if you can think about it, it's absolutely a possibility. But yeah, like people are fighting over that stuff right now.
I think we need to be the main one here. I'm looking at is this whole credit system, and we need to fight this.
Yeah, right. We want to talk about robot rights, and somebody can't even.
We're losing our own rights.
Yeah, right. Is the robot going to buy the land before me? Probably. It does no wrong.
Oh, here I finally got it. The first episode of the 3rd season in Netflix.
First episode of the 3rd.
Yeah. Stars a woman who has fallen victim to the evils of a social credit score. Yeah, so season 3, episode 1 is what I'm...
Yeah, it even has like some delicious commentary on Instagram and like how fake everything is on there. Like in like the very first scene, I think. That episode is fantastic, and if you guys haven't seen it, then you guys should watch it.
Which one are you talking about? This one?
That one that you're talking about?
Oh, this one? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Man, I want to tell you the ending. The ending is so like, it's so perfect too. It makes you realize like, can I ruin it?
Oh my goodness. No, don't ruin it. No spoilers. Right. I mean, it's your show, so actually do whatever you want.
No, it's cool. Just put me on mute.
Yeah. Fast forward like 30 seconds.
It comes all like the ending, like it brings it all together, and you're like, okay, this makes sense why we should not go this direction. I'll leave it at that. Mm-hmm. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I recently, like within the last year, read 1984 for the first time. And that freaking drove me crazy, the ending of that.
Oh, really? It's surprisingly, I feel a little bit of it is fake because I haven't read it yet, but I know.
I'm so glad I didn't say what happened because you must read it.
All right.
Must.
All right. Well, I'll throw that up higher on the list. I think I have a credit on Audible. I'll have to use that.
It's fantastic. And it's not like, I liked it because it's a change from what I normally read, because I'm usually always reading nonfiction. So it's nice to like read a story, I'm trying to get more back into reading like for pleasure and not just to always be learning.
Okay.
Going back into like the hyper-productive thing.
Yeah.
Just to read a book, not to be learning. So I kind of want to pick up the Harry Potter series again, just reread the whole thing, because it's a long one.
And what's crazy about that, and we could probably take Harry Potter and tie it in, is like, there are so many core truths that you can find about the life. Like there's biblical stories that get replicated out through in the Harry Potter thing, that it's just like, okay, these things are real. And it's like, but there is like this level of not acknowledging that they're real. Like I remember even reading that J.K. Rowling like doesn't believe in magic. And it's like, what do you mean you don't believe in magic? Like it's almost like there's like a societal thing where it's like, you shouldn't believe in it, but yet all of our huge, like amazing stories that we've spent billions and billions of dollars on, look at the Marvel series, look at the Harry Potter series, they're all based around these core concepts of the Bible mixed in with magic. Yet we're just going to sit back and be like, yeah, but it doesn't really exist.
Well, so my conspiracy brain is immediately like, of course she said that, like it's just creating dissonance. Why would you write basically 7 books, like volumes you've written on magic and these deep spiritual things, good and evil is the main takeaway in this whole series. And I don't believe that for a second, unless it wasn't even written by her, because that actually I've never heard anywhere, but who knows, apparently she wrote that book on what, bar napkins at a cafe or something. Really? She started writing Harry Potter as a story. Yeah. She was like a struggling poor single mom, and then just like became this millionaire author overnight with these deep, insightful books.
Like, where does that come from? Like, how do you not explain that through magic? Like, I just
right. And if you don't believe in magic or channeling, then like, how did you download that information into your brain to write?
Okay, so this first quote says that she said, "I believe in God, not magic," which I mean, maybe there's a slight difference there.
Same thing.
Maybe that's just like a. All right, now there's just too much weird stuff here. I'm not going to find.
Maybe she said that because a bunch of Christian moms weren't letting their kids read that book because they said it was from the devil.
Well, that's another crazy thing. There's a war on books that's like perpetually going on. Like I wonder if Harry Potter's finally made that list where it's like we're not going to allow this into schools to, expand the mind in that, right?
Yeah, I mean,
don't know.
I was actually walking on my walk earlier, and there's so many little free libraries throughout San Diego. And if you don't know what those are, for those of you listening, because they did not have those in Florida. Basically, it's just like a little box with a little door, and people just put books in there that they aren't reading anymore. And it's just a little free library. And I was thinking about how amazing that is, that there's just books everywhere. There's just always something to learn and read and consume.
I saw that in Pittsburgh recently. I was so
Cool.
shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think there's like 4 in my neighborhood.
Yeah. It's like take one, leave one kind of thing. It's like,
Yep.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. It's such a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until the Karens of the world burn it down.
Yeah. Fahrenheit 451 vibes.
Is that another book?
Oh my goodness.
I've heard of it.
You've got to put that on your list. Ray Bradbury.
Yeah. I gotta look it up.
About burning books, basically.
There's another for Fahrenheit 451. I remember that. But there's another book that I read. Probably the only nonfiction book I read, but it like pertained to like spirituality was wow, I can't believe I'm blanking now. It's about this kid who like goes on like this whole journey of self-discovery, goes to Egypt.
The Alchemist?
That's it. Yep. The Alchemist.
That book rocks.
Yeah. That one broke my mind.
That book is fantastic.
It's one of those books.
My mom is reading that book right now, and I was like, yes, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a win.
It's one of those books where you like you read like what this kid goes through and you're like, holy shit. Like I know, like I've experienced something like that. And it's so crazy to me how it's just like, there's so many truths in like, these nonfiction things. And you're just like, it resonates at like the soul level of just like,
oh, totally.
Okay, this isn't true, but it is true,
Oh, like The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, it's the classic hero's journey where you go and you're at home and you're not happy. So you go on this grand adventure only to realize that everything you ever wanted was home where you were in the first place.
And that's the story of Abraham, right? In the Bible, where he like leaves and then, he like leaves his house at the age of like 60 or something or 80. And then God like basically throws all this shit on him. Like, he's like kill his own son or something. And then like, he gets attacked. His wife like almost gets raped. And then, like it's just hell. But then he realizes like he needed to do that in order to like live almost, or like to experience the world.
Yeah. And sometimes you just need to go through hell to appreciate where you were before and like what you have access to on the daily. Like you are traveling a lot right now. And I'm sure I thought about this when you were talking about your morning routine. And I was thinking about like that you are not in like the same place all the time. But so you having like these same practices every morning probably gives you like a grounded sense of home, just like in yourself, of like where you are, like some consistency, even though like you stay on the road all the time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, being able to do the same thing, it brings that level of appreciation. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's hard to articulate.
Yeah, right. I think that's interesting that you are consistent with your morning routine. You wake up, you're grateful, you meditate, you stretch, you do your thing. And, I was thinking like, man, like I have a hard time doing that. And I'm in my same house all the time. And then I was just like, oh, well, he's not in the same house all the time. So maybe he needs that to have some sense of stability while you're traveling.
It's interesting because, and this is reminding me of whenever you were talking about how sometimes you like won't read. Like sometimes I won't do it on purpose. Like it's just like, it feels like I shouldn't do it almost. Not that I shouldn't do it, but I need to not do it to remember that I need to do it almost. And it's like, it's like this level of, it's like almost stopping before burnout kind of thing. It's like, I don't want to push it. Like, I don't want to be in a place where I'm like forcing myself. And this kind of touches on that hustle culture conversation we had, where it's like, I don't want to be in this place where I'm like, you have to meditate every single morning and every single night, like before bed. It's
and like have a super regimented structure, even if you're not feeling it.
Yeah. Cause
then you're not listening to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like,
continue with what you're going to say.
Yeah. I mean, that was pretty much it.
Yeah. I am subscribed to her name on Instagram, Slow Down Farmstead, and she rocks. She's a Canadian homesteader, and she sends out these like really beautiful essays like once or twice a week, and one of them was on like technology, so biohacking technology, and the part that I thought about was the Aura ring. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Aura ring. I think
I've heard of it, but I know it's a spiritual
it's like a sleep
thing.
tracker. No. This is a sleep tracker.
Oh.
It's like ORA or something. It's not like your aura.
Oh, okay.
But it's called the Aura ring, which is funny. But so she was talking about how she was having trouble sleeping and how she was wearing this Aura ring at night. And so I'm sure that EMFs were not great coming from that because it's a Bluetooth device and it's whatever. But the main takeaway that I got, so she was talking about how she would sleep and then she'd wake up and have this ring tell her how she slept. And so she said that, she would wake up feeling like she got a great night's sleep and whatever. And the ring would be like, oh, like you slept horribly last night. Like you should take it easy today. And then if she felt like she got really poor sleep, some days the ring would be like, oh, like you slept fantastic. Like you should put in a really hard workout today. And she's like, I'm literally like outsourcing my intuition to this device and I'm second guessing what I'm actually even feeling and how do I feel? Like I don't need a ring to tell me if I slept well or not. Like I just need to get in touch with myself and feel it.
That's beautiful. Because that makes me think about how I've always kind of started looking at science. I talked about this on my episode, maybe after you. It might have been the episode I did right after you were first on.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, what was it that was the chain of events? Oh, my buddy was telling me how, like, he would get a chip placed in him. And I was like, oh, that's crazy, blah, blah, blah. I would never do that. Like, and then I caught myself because I was like, I would never do that. But then the next thought that came into me was, well, I would do that if they were able to tell me like how many proteins, grams of carbs, like I needed to eat at a certain time.
That's a cool thought.
But then it brings it back to what you just said, and this is something that I've actually kind of done with my diet recently, is taking more of an intuitive approach and not to be so regimented about like, okay, only meat, only this, only that. It's like, just trust yourself intuitively. Like, what does it feel if you eat ice cream? Oh, well, that feels bad. Like, let's not eat that much. We can have a little bit, but not too much. And it's like, I feel like, and this comes back to maybe like the yin and the yang, is where if you do too much one way, it has a slingshot effect to not want to do it anymore. And something that's
totally, and like you rebel.
Yeah.
Almost.
And something that's coming to mind is fasting. Like, I used to be huge on fasting. I had the Zero app, which is a great app. Shout out the Zero app.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to a point where I had fasted for, I think, like 630 days straight or something. But as I was getting to the end of it,
intermittent.
Yes, that's key. Yeah, not. That's a very important distinction.
Talk about 4D.
Yeah. I only eat the sun. Intermittent fasting. So they were like probably 14 to 16 hour fasts. And I did that for like,
that's so good for you.
Well, it became a thing where I was like only doing it because I wanted to get like to the next one. Like I wanted 639. I wanted 640. It was no longer about the health effects of it. And I So I came to this point of realization. I was like, okay, I need to stop tracking it. And unfortunately, and here's how that rubber band happens, is like it was probably a year and a half ago that I probably did my last fast, and I've just not really felt like doing it because of, I think that like, and I think they're great. There's so much science that proves that they're beneficial, but just intuitively, my body's like, well, I don't really want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is great for your gut to get a reset and to have time to not be digesting food, because ideally your gut cells can be turning over every 24 to 72 hours. The whole lining of your intestinal wall can change over, but it can't do that if you're constantly eating food. But I will say that, like, as far as the intuitive thing goes, like, you probably don't need that then because you did it for so long, that your gut is probably in an okay place. But as far as like people that have sugar addictions and stuff, like sometimes it's not great to be super intuitive with your diet because, but ultimately your brain knows, like, that you don't need to be eating cookies and ice cream every day, but physiologically you're going to be craving it. So just to like find the delicate balance between like your intuition and your physical body craving the garbage that you've been putting in it for so long.
And I think that there's, what I want to say here. There's a good parallel here with how we were talking about where I was like 3 or 4 years ago, where I would just open up my phone and just look at Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's like you're in this place of just like, that's normal, right? Like opening up Instagram, looking at first thing, that's normal. Eating all the sugar and all these carbs, that's just normal. So for you to then like see how you feel without it, and this goes with alcohol as well. I know when I stopped drinking, like for 2 weeks, you just feel like incredible. Like there's this huge, like just burden lifted. Everything's lighter.
Yeah.
It's just, everything is more color. There's no more fog. And it's like this, yeah. And so like, so it's interesting. So that there's like this weird like balance that kind of goes on of like, well, you need to at least try it without. Like maybe you need to do something a little bit extreme so that you can feel like what it's like without it. Like maybe you need to do like a 3-day fast. Like maybe you need to just completely cut something out, for a duration of time to see what it's like without it. And then maybe there's like this like wiggle adjustment where you go back to it now and then. And that's kind of what we were talking about with the meditation.
Yeah, totally. And as far as the food thing goes, I'm like a dog. I'm like a very food oriented individual. I can be motivated with food. I can be rewarded with food. But so I had a really big resistance to doing this 4-day reset. There's a book called The Woman Code by Alisa Vitti. And it's just a really great book all about like your cycle and, regulating your hormones and stuff. And so she's got a 4-day reset in the book. And I had a really huge resistance to doing this 4-day reset. And I was like, dude, food is like one part of your life. There's probably 50 other things in your life that you can focus on, but I was just hyper focused on the food and what I wasn't going to be able to eat or what I was going to be able to eat. And I like had to check myself. I was like, whoa, girl, like let's pump the brakes. Like food is seriously just like a tiny part of life. But I think that so many people are hyper focused on it because they either aren't focusing on anything else really, or like don't enjoy other hobbies in their life, or they have like physical addictions. But that was a really interesting thing that I experienced, was just like being hyper focused on the lack of food. So it's important to like let the pendulum swing the other way and get a little bit intense and do fasting for 700 days, or go on a bender and feel like total shit from alcohol to the point that you don't even want to drink anymore, because then you're going to swing it back the other way. And you just have to kind of reach these points of extremes sometimes, I think, to actually get a shift.
Yeah, because that's certainly something I even experienced when I like, let's say you started to wean off alcohol. Like I know between the ages of like, when I got to college at 18 to 25, I realized I was like, oh shit, like I hadn't gone like a weekend without drinking or a week without drinking. And it's so funny because like internally you're like, oh, like, I'm not addicted. And having that realization, I was like, all right, prove it. Like you're not addicted, go 30 days.
Yeah. Well, and for the record, nobody go on a bender, please.
Yeah.
That's just an example. It's key to say that.
Yeah, maybe we don't. It might have. Don't want to discredit all the other great information.
No, right. Yeah, please don't go on a bender.
Yeah, she said all this interesting stuff and then told me to go get hammered.
And she said get hammered, so this chick rocks. No, I went out recently and we were all at like this fun tiki bar, and I just asked the bartender, I was like, can you just make like a soda water, but like, can you make it fun? Can you put the umbrellas in it, and can you do the garden? And they did, and it was fun, so it's just like a participatory thing as well, I think.
I remember
when
that.
People aren't always on the same level of, yeah, I posted it on Instagram.
And that's interesting too, because that's funny you say that. Actually, I'm thinking about this now, and I think that picture actually inspired me to actually order soda water more consistently, because they'll still put a lime in it, and so it like looks like you're like still kind of there, you're still drinking, but it's like this
exactly
is this like subtle like,
or even like I mean, as a female, I love drinking things out of a wine glass, so I'll be like, hey, can I get soda water, but like in a wine glass? I know this is really annoying, I get it, but non-alcoholic beers are a great option too, but that's just like a lot of calories and just kind of makes me feel full and bloated.
They're starting to get pretty good.
Athletic Brewing has a great one.
Oh, I love Athletic.
So good.
I'm a big fan. I know the sales rep for like the San Francisco area.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
I was working. Did you say he's a cool dude?
Yeah, cool dude.
Yeah. I was working brunch yesterday, and there was 2 guys, and they literally crushed 6 non-alcoholic beers between the two of them, and like 4 mocktails. they weren't drinking at all. And I was just like, yes, you can still go out and have fun without alcohol. And that was the message, that me and everybody needed behind the bar. Cause, I've definitely been drinking several times a week. And so I'm cutting that out because I just need to cut it out.
There is this interesting thing that occurs, and this kind of ties back to consciousness. Whenever you go out with people who are drinking and you're not drinking, there becomes like this level of disconnect at a certain point where either they start to get too drunk or something, and you kind of get like this sluggish
why
feeling.
Am I here feeling?
Yeah, like this feeling of all right, I think it's my time to go home.
But there's power in that. And, as we were talking about not drinking and all that kind of stuff, like finding friends that don't just want to drink, it sounds simple, but sometimes it's more difficult said than done. But I recently started rock climbing. I joined a rock climbing gym, and I've made like 3 or 4 new friends. And so we'll text each other and we'll go climb together. And it's just like a really healthy, fun, cool thing.
Good for you.
Is, just different. So it's like putting yourself in different situations so that you can meet people that are aligned with what you want to do, even if it means going alone and being kind of nervous.
And there's something to be said there for like the consciousness and perspective, because I know whenever I stopped drinking, like there was a level of me that was like, wait, how am I going to have friends? It was like, wait, how am I going to like find a girl to, date? Like, and to me, it was like this, like, whoa, like my world around alcohol was just so shaped around the bars. Like friends, you go like, what am I going to do if I'm not drinking? And it's like, like that can be scary for people to stop just because of having that knowledge of like, wait, I have identified everything in my life, like where all my relationships happen, where I spend my money, where I spend my free time. And so to like just break that mold and be like, wait, there's like, I'm missing something here. And one of my buddies, James,
and it becomes like a habit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And one of my buddies, James, he lives in San Diego, and I remember talking to him about like, dude, like I need some help, man. Like I've just realized like having this epiphany, because he doesn't drink. And I was like, dude, like, what do you do? Like, what do you do when you don't drink?
What do you do?
Yeah. Like, how do you meet people?
Right. Seriously.
Yeah. And so it's an interesting perspective shift.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I'm sure just like, you just don't drink.
Yeah.
You can still go out. You can still be at the bars and still have fun, but you just don't drink.
You find other stuff to do. You got rock climbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is crazy in its own rights, because I've seen, and this comes back to, and we can tie this into a consciousness perspective where, taking that framework of how there's these similarities in the Bible, in Marvel characters, in Harry Potter, in The Hobbit. I've seen so many similarities between jiu-jitsu and rock climbing, from like the way you place your body, how, you need to move things in different areas. Like when I went
to be aware of so much.
Yeah. Yeah. When I went with my buddy, he would like start saying things like, oh, you do this in this situation or that in this situation. I'm like, damn, like there's a parallel there with jiu-jitsu. Like it was legit. Like the first, I think like 3 days we went, I was like, 50 times I probably said, oh, that's similar in jiu-jitsu when blah, blah, blah.
Wow. That's really interesting. Yeah. Like I just recently started, and so I'm still learning like, the proper body positioning, but it's just really cool it's a puzzle, first of all. And it's like a physical puzzle. Like you have to figure out how to do it. Like I did this climb the other day, and it was these like teeny little crimpy things, and my forearms were just burning because it's movements that I'm not used to making. But I recently read this article that was talking about how grip strength is a better indicator for all-cause mortality than cardiovascular strength. So being able to just like grip something or hold on to something, being able to hang from a pull-up bar for 5 minutes is a better indicator for your overall well-being than like running on a treadmill and testing your heart rate, which is, I think, super, super interesting. I don't know the deep science about it, but
yeah, that is fascinating.
Yeah, it's cool. So, but yeah, going back to like the mental puzzle and how it's probably similar to jiu-jitsu, it's just
yep.
It's just super cool.
The analogy with jiu-jitsu is that it's a chest with your body, so
yeah,
you're even echoing it right there when you say it's a puzzle with your body.
Oh, 1,000%. And it's like, you just want to keep going and get better at it. But then your body's just like, all right, I can't do this anymore. Like, you have to take a day off. And it's like, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
I really want to get that climb. I really want to finish my project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, there's this physical fatigue. And this is another similarity is like, you need to figure out the technical ways to do things, like whether it's with climbing or jujitsu, because otherwise you're going to exert all of your energy and not going to have the energy to train more or to practice rock climbing more.
Totally. And having, peers and mentors that have been doing it longer than you that can kind of show you the ropes so that you're not spinning your wheels and having shitty form. Because it takes way longer to train out bad form than it does to just put it in initially, as far as exercises going.
It takes longer to train out bad form. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it takes like 3 times more repetitions to correct an improper neurological response. So say you've like horrible deadlift form. You'd have to do like 3 or 4 times as many reps of the exercise to imprint in your nervous system the correct form than it took you to actually get it in there.
Really?
In the first place. Yeah.
Interesting. Would you have to, I'm thinking you might be able to just circumvent that though if you like mentally imagine it. Like, would you be able to use the mind to circumvent that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about in the book Becoming Supernatural, like how those people they like put somebody in a cast and had them envision like doing bicep curls, and they had muscular gain.
Oh, right.
Even though they were in a cast.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it was in that book.
Yeah, he like there was like finger exercises or people playing piano.
For the piano.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's just so like, and that, in this, the power of the mind. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to flash back to a conversation we had on episode 006 when we talked about blueberries, and I was telling you about how I was kind of like having neck acne. Yeah, my throat chakra, exactly. And there was the correlation, and the question was, is like, how do you not know that was placebo? And I was like, okay, like maybe that's valid. But then I thought about this a little bit deeper, and this is where you like, I like taking things to the extreme. But why is it that we can't convince ourselves using the placebo effect? Why is it that we can't convince ourselves that like cookies or sugar is good for us? Why can't we say, oh, well, if I eat 20 cookies, I can mentally convince myself that it's healthy and I'll have 6-pack abs and I'm going to do a cookies only diet?
There is a man that does this. His name is Matt Blackburn, and he is in the same camp as this other woman named Kitty Bloomfield, something like that. These people are very pro sugar. They are really interesting people, but he like advocates for white table sugar. He drinks a glass of orange juice. He drinks like coconut water with like, I don't know. He just like, they're all about sugar, and they're healthy and they're ripped. I don't really know exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And Matt Blackburn.
Yeah. I got to look him up because this is...
You got to look him up. And he's like a healthy individual. And it's just really crazy to me because I think that they like used to do keto and they're like all about sugar. So that's funny that you bring them up because like those people absolutely exist and they like seem kind of healthy. And so I'm not a scientist and I'm not a doctor. So I don't know what they're doing, but it seems like it's working for them, I guess.
Oh my gosh. I'm not sure if it doesn't really talk about it. It talks about how he like has a bachelor's degree in complementary alternative health.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. And for those of you listening, like if you want to go on your Instagram and just look him up, it's actually, I think, quite fascinating. He calls it like his electrolyte mineral cocktail or something, and it's literally just coconut water, and it sounds delicious. It sounds like a sugary treat, and he uses white table sugar. And
because that's what's so crazy to me is that
I know. Are we ever going to get the right answers?
Maybe the right answer doesn't exist. Like, it's so crazy. I gotta find his information though. Does he have recipes? Gummy bear metabolism boosting gummy bears. That's a fucking recipe.
What in the freaking heck?
Gelatin, white sugar, like orange fruit juice.
Are you on his website?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Like, this just blows my mind because you have people, metabolic breakfast pancakes. Let's see what's in it. All-purpose organic flour, baking powder. Like,
yeah.
Like it. But, oh, gosh.
He's a freaking genius because it's just like the standard American diet, and he's just rebranding it. And like, I don't understand, but honestly, I respect it on some level. I respect it,
no,
but you know.
But this is what.
Yeah, there's just so many pieces to the puzzle.
This is what's so crazy to me is because, you know, you have athletes who say that veganism is the answer. I went on only meat diet for I think like 4 or 6 months. I can't remember. Felt incredible. It was everything just was firing.
Were you doing nose to tail?
Say it again.
Were you nose to tail?
Nose to tail. It was pretty much just it was just red meat. It was mostly tri-tip. I wasn't doing like organs.
Tri-tip king.
Yeah, I love tri-tip. Yeah, you know.
I know.
You know. Yeah.
So good.
He's tasted it.
Yeah. The magic. Clayton's meats.
Yeah. It's a shout out. Appreciate the shout out. You got a lot of shout outs today. Gonna need a list of all of it.
I know. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. It's great information. But shit, like I find it crazy because when I was like thinking about this, I was like, oh, when Hannah comes back on, I'm bringing this up. And here you go. You're like, oh, well, yeah, that exists too. You can just have a sugar-only diet and you can be healthy. Like,
yeah. I mean, who knows what it's going to look like in the long term? And I would really love to see, you know, how they look in 5 or 10 years. But apparently they were down bad from like the current healthy diets, but also like you can do too much, like we were just saying. But I mean, I think that obviously, you know me, and I think that animal-based is the way to go. But humans we're beautiful adapters. You know, we can really adapt to any environment, and our bodies are very resilient until it gets to the point where they can't be. And then we have symptoms, and those are just signals from your body that something's not working, you know? So people have chronic headaches and acne and craziness, and they just take a pill, but they don't get to the cause, like the root of it. You know?
And to me, what all of this signals from everything you just laid out, from everything we've just laid out with the food and nutrition, is it all just comes to your state of being, like your mind. Like if you classify something as bad, sugar, you know, meat, or vegetables, whatever you want to classify as bad, you have now just identified, like, you're right. Like, and that's what's like breaking my mind with like science and all this is just like, if you think it's bad and not for you and wrong, then avoid it because you're right. Like it's going to have a negative impact on you.
Mm-hmm. I'm reading this book right now called Ask and It Is Given by Abraham Hicks. Do you
I've heard of her, but I haven't heard of the book.
Okay. So yeah, basically Abraham is channeled by a woman named Esther. So Abraham is like this collective consciousness that she channels. So I'm reading this book written by them, in air quotes. And so in this book, basically it was talking about how like whatever you believe is true. Like your beliefs are just ideas that you keep thinking. That's all it is. And if you think that something's true, you're going to find it. You're going to find evidence of it in your reality. So this book, Ask and It Is Given, is basically about like learning to manifest your desires and what you actually want to be true. Like, what do you want to be true? Okay, cool. Make it happen and believe in it. And then it will be so.
I mean, and that I believe, like, I hold that to be so true. Like this whole sugar fucking conundrum. I'm going to have to deep dive this, guys. Like, this is fucking breaking my mind. But is it? Oh, I can contact them. We'll bring them on the podcast. But
oh my goodness, please.
Oh, it's just a newsletter. Let's see what his Instagram is. But to your point, like, he might not reply. Sometimes people don't reply when they're too big of accounts. Whatever. We'll see what happens. Manifest.
Yeah. How many followers does he have?
On Instagram, 67,000.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Says it right here.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
But like, you know, getting back to the concept of like what you believe is going to become reality. Like, I see that just everywhere. It's so wild, and it really comes to question like how much of it is projection and how much of it is actually the truth of like what's going on. And I've
Yeah.
seen it echoed like with my parents. I see it being echoed with like other people, like the idea of like I knew that was going to happen. Like I, I don't know. Like here's an example. This morning I went to jujitsu and I took my mom's car, and a thought I had was is like, oh, I never like officially told her I was taking the car, but we discussed jujitsu. So it was like, oh, she's probably gonna like think her car was stolen. Didn't think anything about it other than that. Until later
Did you
tonight.
text her?
Was that?
Did you like text her?
Well, it was like early in the morning. I knew I was gonna be back. I didn't like think about
Okay.
it. And then I come back in the night, and like, you know, she went to work or whatever. And what happened? Oh, we were walking our dog, and like halfway through the walk, she's like, oh, the funniest thing happened this morning. And I'm like, what? She's like, well, when I took the dog out for a walk this morning, I saw that my car was gone. And like, I had this like rush of panic. I thought someone stole it. And then I saw like the tire marks were moving out. So like, you know, I knew it wasn't like fully stolen. She was like, and then I remembered you going to jujitsu, but I wasn't sure if like you went. She's like, so I thought for a second that my car was stolen. And I'm just like, shit.
That's so crazy.
So like the question becomes, did I create that by thinking that before it actually happening? Was I so in tune with my mom or the energy of like, you know what I mean? Cause I told her the night before that like I would be back before like she needed to go to work at like 10 or something. I was like, I know I'll be back before then. But that action of her actually like believing that the car was stolen, like,
and the fact that she said something to you about it, that she remembered to say something. But it's like when you pick up your phone to like call your friend and they're calling you, or you go to text somebody that you were just thinking about and they texted you. It's just,
yeah.
I'm trying to stop saying that it's like crazy or like that, oh my God, that's so weird, but it's just like aligned and it's perfect, actually.
Yeah. I think it's a pure evidence of being aligned with like it. And this is where it comes back to consciousness. It's a signal of pure alignment, I think, between who you are and that you're like speaking your truth to the best of your ability, because I think that it unlocks like this level of like telepathy or clairvoyance or clairsentience. And so you get access to this like alternate dimension of shit that's happening.
And there's a lot of shit happening. And so the fact that like you focused on that thought and remembered that thought and then were aware of it when it happened again. I was walking recently and I was looking in a clover patch. Like I was like walking and I was like looking for a 4-leaf clover. Just like casually looking for a 4-leaf clover. Didn't see one, that's fine. Kept walking, and this man turns the corner and he had a 4-leaf clover on his shirt. That was the only thing on his shirt. And I was just like, seek and ye shall find, but it won't always be where you want it to be.
It's so crazy.
That blew my mind. I was just like, whoa, okay, cool. I get it. I'm listening.
I'm tuned in. Yeah, it's like this. It's like the universe has some way of like it'll like show you. It's like it's gonna come in a weird way that you're not ready for. Almost, it's like it'll show up when you're ready, but you gotta like let go of it being ready. And it's reminding me of whenever I came to San Diego in December and we went for that walk, and we were talking about the yin yang symbol.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't.
Yeah. That was so crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't like 5 minutes after starting that conversation that it just like popped up on a random tent. What was it? It was a tent that was like in the middle of the beach almost or something.
Yeah. So we were walking. We started talking about yin yang for some reason. I'm not even exactly sure why. And then we were just kept walking, and there was this random like just pop up tent that had a yin yang, and they were selling like incense or like Palo Santo or something.
And it was just
completely crazy.
It was like
no, it was a lot.
It was like 8 a.m. on like a Tuesday or something like that. It wasn't even.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, in the middle of the boardwalk. It wasn't even like there was other shops around. It was just that.
Yeah, because it wasn't even down like by Belmont Park or anything like where there would be tents.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nuts. But just one instance of just like being in alignment, and that stuff I guess just happens more and more, and then people just start to expect it. And I think that that's the point that I want to get to, is just expecting the cool shit and expecting the goodness and the things to flow.
I noticed recently, I put this in a podcast or like one of my catch up with Clayton's, is that I think like once you start doing like good things for people, you start getting more opportunity to do good things for people. Like that's something that's like shown real strong in my life recently.
Yeah.
Which is
like in what way?
It could be small things to a big thing. Like off the top of my head, it was when I was back in San Diego, like finding someone's phone, taking it to like, up to the front desk, or helping someone carry something, or somebody dropped something, so you need to help them pick it up, or
it just feels nice.
Yeah, it does too.
Yeah,
it feels good. It's just like, yeah.
I was out to eat recently, and I'm eating my stuff, and there was this super old lady that came in with, I think it was like her son or something. And so she just like kind of gets in, she has to like sit down at the table real slow, like, she's an old person. She's not, anyway. So they were talking about their order or whatever, I guess. And he had gone inside to order, and she like said his name a couple of times and he didn't hear her. And so like, I'm seeing this go down, and so I like went inside and I was like, hey, like your friend outside, like is asking for you. And he was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And she was like, thank you seriously so much. And it's just like, yeah, like when you witness things like where an older person needs help, or I was getting on an airplane and some lady has a baby strapped to her chest and she's got 10 bags everywhere. And I was like, do you want me to put this suitcase up for you? She's like, please. She didn't even say like, thank you or anything. She's just like, yes, like I need you to put that up for me right now. I'm at the end of my rope. And the girl behind me was like, oh my God, that was so nice. And it's just like, well, that's just being a person, and the opportunities will continue to present themselves if you act accordingly in the moments where you know that you should be doing well.
I truly believe that.
Yeah.
And it just like has this ripple effect across everyone else. Like you probably inspired other people to now like make those little helping, gestures,
Yeah, totally. And it's like, you don't even want recognition. It's just knowing that you're doing the right thing.
It feels
having
good.
Integrity.
It's weird. And I mean, there's a level of it, and this is partially my ego talking, but there's like this weird, like, it feels good, but then I know good things are going to come because I did this. And it's like, there's like this belief that, when you give, the universe gives you like sevenfold back. And it's like,
yes,
it's so.
My mom always says double for your trouble.
Yeah. Is that a saying your mom says?
Well, that's what my mom says.
Oh,
yeah. She's like, I'm going to get double for my trouble. And she freaking does.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's so wild.
Yeah.
But it comes to you like when you need it the most. It's like, when you need something, that's when it will be provided to you. It's not, you don't need like, and this was something that I always kind of got into trouble with, I think mentally, is like always trying to like even the balance sheet like right away. Like if a friend of mine got an Uber, like I would want to Venmo them, even if it was like $5. Like, no, I'm going to Venmo you so I don't owe you something. And it almost like takes away from that mysticism. It's like, no, dude, just let him buy this Uber for you. You'll do something else for somebody else like down the road.
True.
Yeah.
Right. Well, especially like if you talk about it and they're like, no, you're good.
But see, that still felt weird with me. Like I was like,
well,
no.
So then why aren't you allowing yourself to receive a gift?
Oh, well, yeah, that was the issue.
Yeah. Like let yourself receive the gift.
Yeah. You can't receive if you don't let yourself receive.
You're worthy of an Uber ride, Clayton. It's fine. No, and I'm saying that from experience because I totally struggle with that same exact stuff.
It's crazy.
Just like, let things happen for you. It's okay. It doesn't always have to be a struggle.
Well, and this kind of gets into the perception of money and like wealth, which let's talk about it because I think this touches on consciousness really well. Is like the value of something is perceived by the beholder. And I know there was a website that did this really well where it was along the lines of like, I mean, you could look at Craigslist, for instance, but if you just give away something for free, like somebody else wants it, right? Or people will pay you for stuff that you no longer want. Like if I'm no longer using something, I could very easily take it to Goodwill and they'll give me 10 cents for it, right? Which is more money than I had before.
Right.
And so, even the idea of value and money, it's like $1 to me doesn't mean $1 to you. It doesn't mean $1 to another person. Like, we've tried to articulate what $1 is worth, but it's different for everybody else. You can even expand that to like a book or something where, I would pay $20 for a book that you wouldn't pay. You'd be like, that's overpriced for that book,
Oh, 1,000%.
And you can see that with art for sure.
Oh, totally.
And so
what are your thoughts on NFTs?
I think that they're the future.
You do?
Yeah. We can get into that, but Let's
No, but let's stick with this for
yeah
right now.
yeah we can definitely do an NFT conversation, but where this comes into the whole like consciousness realm and wealth consciousness is, say this person buys me that $5 Uber, right?
Mm-hmm.
My mindset was, oh, now I owe that person $5. When in reality, it's like, I am going to, the fact that I'm able to receive that, let's say $5 for this Uber, I will now in a way, assuming I'm like in this giving state, I will give something worth more than $5 to somebody else. Like, because I needed the $5 in that instance. Like, to me, maybe that $5 was, to him, the $5 was probably nothing, right? Maybe to him, it's like roughly my version of 5 cents. But me receiving that $5 Uber, to me, that's like, whoa, like everything. And so then if I help someone with that bag, like you helping that lady lift up that thing, like to her, that could very easily be worth $20. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, totally.
And so,
well, and there's a prosperity consciousness, and then there's like a poverty consciousness, you know, of just like you thinking that like, oh shit, like that's $5 whole. Like, dang, like I need to give that to him because I wouldn't want somebody to not pay me for an Uber. But like you being able to receive that $5 gift is probably great practice for you moving forward to receive $100 gift or $1,000 gift. You know, it's like practicing the art of receiving.
yeah.
And also like with a giving mindset, of course, not being super selfish.
Well, for sure. And I know my mom listens, so Mom, I love you. But there's a story I have with her. And this is where it comes from is, I realized that, and first of all, this is a great thing about living with your parents is you get to see so many things that like, you know, happen in that help you cultivate this psyche of like what's going on in your life.
Oh yeah. Hi, Mom.
God bless them. But so what I noticed is like, she's a great cook, phenomenal cook. And what would happen is that when I would compliment her, the meal she would make, there would always be like well, but you know, this thing got overcooked, or but da 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 da. And it like clicked with me. It was like, Mom, you're not like receiving my compliment. And my mom is like the biggest giver in the entire world. Like that. She's a lady who, you know, would help anybody like ever sees on the street, any little thing that's wrong, she would give. Like, I would label my mom very much as a giver. The problem is that she doesn't allow herself to receive like these compliments, for instance, right? Like that's a very simple, symbolic, like just you're welcome. Totally. Instead, it's, you know, I can see that layer of like blocking the receiving. It's like, oh, but you know, I overcooked this or overdid that. And it's like this level of like self-judgment, I guess. But
and like self-deprecation. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how are you ever supposed to receive if you're constantly blocking when the universe is trying to give to you?
Females do that all the time. You know, I'll be like, hey, like that's a really cute shirt, or somebody will compliment mine and I'll be like, oh, it was only $5. And it's like, that literally doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they just complimented you. But why are you trying to like lessen what, you know? And so one of my friends called me out. She's like, don't deflect my compliment. Like, I was like, thank you. And then I'm like, are you just complimenting me for me to say thank you? Like, where does it end?
Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, I mean that's the core essence of it, is like just the littlest things like you can receive, and it has like this like transpiring effect, right? Like I mean there's so many examples that I can think of, but you know, there's the reason you're not receiving what you want is because you're not allowing you to receive like the little things.
Yes. So I listened to his pastor Michael Todd, and it's called Transformation Church. And he just finished a series that was basically called like, Here is Holy. Like right here and right now, this is where all of the magic happens. And when you're worried about being there, you aren't able to receive here. You're not able to learn the lessons that you're needing to learn here. You're not able to get the blessings that you need here in order to get there. Like when you're focused on there, you're not here. And, you know, obviously it's like kind of like the power of now stuff too. But it's just really interesting of just like, yeah, like you need to learn how to receive a $5 gift before you can learn to receive $1,000 gift or $1 million gift.
Right.
It's like you have to be here and do your work now where you are instead of always worrying about the next place.
And something that's kind of coming through that ties to this is you brought up poverty consciousness. And I started thinking about this pretty deep. And what I got to was, you know, poverty consciousness isn't just like based on your bank account. So for example,
No.
people in poverty consciousness can have billions of dollars stored up in wealth. What happens is that there's like a duality effect, I believe, that happens in this poverty consciousness or scarcity mindset, where you can have billions of dollars, look at banks, for instance, and yet still believe that you need to have more. And this is
maybe that's Gary Vee.
Whoa, maybe.
Yeah.
But, but for, well, maybe I'll just leave it at that. But like I noticed this because I know back in, and this touches on your crypto and NFT stuff, is that whenever, this is probably 2 years ago, it was like a chief level officer of JP Morgan went on and said like Bitcoin's a scam, Bitcoin's terrible, it's awful, blah, blah, blah. And like it dropped 20% like within the next week. Well, in the next week, JP Morgan also bought like $100 million worth of Bitcoin.
Of course.
And so, what happens there, and this is what resonated with me, is like the fact that he believes that there's not enough, that he has to have more. And this is a guy who easily is a millionaire, like a billionaire probably. It's like because of his scarcity mindset, he is putting more people in actual poverty, in like actual physical, having less
and like lied.
Yeah, sure. I mean, maybe he believed. Yeah, I mean, he probably literally lied because he probably knew.
Or maybe his mind magically changed when he saw it go down and saw the opportunities.
Yeah, right. But that's the thing, is like that poverty mindset has this like win-lose conundrum, but it's like in reality, you're creating lose-lose situations because, okay, great, you just bought Bitcoin at a cheap price, but he still has the scarcity mindset. Like, doesn't matter if Bitcoin goes up to $1 billion the next day, he's still going to be in the scarcity mindset of like, there's not enough money.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I went through a period of like getting financially sound, and instead of being like I'm struggling to save money, or like I'm not saving any money or anything, it's like you have to change your beliefs. And it's like I'm getting better at managing my money all the time. There's always enough. There's always more than enough. Like, could I buy a random coffee for somebody? Could I give somebody a $5 gift? Okay, yeah, I have more than enough money. And so like just believe that, and then it will come into your life.
And this kind of goes back to what we were saying about whenever things will come into your life when you need them, is like, if you had, let's say, $1 million on your bank account, and because this is something I'm very similar, have made this mindset flip myself, where if you, I lost my train of thought. Because right now, if you had $1 million, like you wouldn't learn that lesson of the abundance, right? You wouldn't go on this interpersonal discovery adventure of, although my bank account reads $1,000, it's like, well, $1,000 is all that you need right now. If you keep giving and going through this process, the universe is going to give you in other ways than monetary value, like whether it's knowledge, which will perpetuate itself throughout the course of time and go to an exponential rate. But regardless, the point is that, the fact of thinking that only having $1,000 is in scarcity, it's not. You need value coming into your life in maybe different aspects, or you're blocking, or there's lessons you need to learn that will then open that up in order for you to enjoy life and enjoy it in a more sustainable way, as opposed to like these NFL or NBA players who get millions of dollars and then go broke in 5-10 years because they don't know how to manage their money.
Yeah, I heard somebody talking recently that like there was an NFL player that got their money, like their payment for the year or whatever, in Bitcoin, and then the market tanked. So he got like, I think $30,000 or something was the equivalent of how much he actually got paid for the season, because like he put it into Bitcoin and then Bitcoin went down, which I just thought was like kind of hilarious. But also like cool. I mean, if you really believe in something, then do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he probably messed up with his structuring of that. He shouldn't have.
1,000%.
Yeah.
But it's like if you stay in the, like, if it wasn't his first season, so I'm sure he's like already a millionaire.
Yeah.
So it's probably marginal at that point. Which again, it's like your perspective. Like if you're already a millionaire and you lose $1 million, like it doesn't really matter to you. But if it's like your first million and like you lose everything, then like, yeah, you're kind of screwed.
I mean, it's just, I guess there's a level of a lesson that you need to learn, is the way I guess I would look at it personally.
Yeah. I read the Daily Stoic every day. And yesterday it was talking about how, like, you know, everything happens for a reason. And even if it seems like everything is not working out in your favor, maybe it's because somebody else needed it, you know, in that moment, and that like everything, you know.
Yeah, I noticed you've been posting that on your story more frequently now.
Yeah, I really like it. And it actually holds me accountable to read it every day. And I think that people gain value from it, even if they don't.
Well, I thank you.
Say anything. Yeah. Right.
I'll put it out there right now. Yeah. Thank you.
I love that book. Yeah,
I think you actually posted whatever you posted today. I think resonated with me. I'm going to go check that out real quick. Cause I remember you posted something and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going through that right now. Maybe it was today or yesterday.
Yeah. I can't really remember what my story was.
Self-deception's our enemy. No, I think it was yesterday's where I was like, oh shit, that resonated. I don't know.
Gone with the wind.
For another time. Just let go.
Yeah. Like a fart in the wind, it's gone.
Yeah. So before we wrap it up, is there any other elements of quantum biology that you want to discuss that you're thinking of that you were like, I really need to bring this up, or anything that's fascinating?
Not necessarily. And I do just want to reiterate again that like I too am just recently learning about this, like within the last couple of months. So I'm newly in the rabbit hole. But just some like actionable steps that I think would be very beneficial for anyone listening to apply to their life if they would like to. Rise with the sun and look at the sun every single morning. First thing in the morning, as soon as you wake up, go outside, get outside, signal to your body and your circadian rhythm that it is the morning. And following that at nighttime when the sun is going down, try and watch the sunset if you can. That's always a great way to end the night, but wear some blue light blocking glasses. If the lenses are clear, they are not working. So get some red lensed blue light blockers. There's a really cool company called Raw Optics, RA, like the sun god.
Nice.
Raw Optics. He's super cool based on what Instagram says, and he's got some nice ones. They're kind of higher end, but I have some cheapies from Amazon too that I can send you a link for if you wanted to throw it in the show notes.
Yeah, please do.
So blue light blockers at night, trying not to eat food at night. Eating food in the morning first thing is really great too, because your gut has a circadian rhythm as well. So your gut clock syncs out with your circadian clock. Drink water with minerals in it. Purified, clean, good water with minerals. Get in the sun. Ground your feet.
Real quick with is there any validity? I've got a question about light and then water. For water, the pH, I know that was like a big thing going on. Is
like alkaline water?
Yeah, is that overhyped? Is that actually a thing?
Yeah, I could not care less about alkaline water, honestly. I think that it also has the potential to maybe be harmful because you want your stomach to be really acidic. So if you're putting like something super alkaline in it, like that can like mess with the pH of your stomach acid, is something that I've heard, which I think is a valid observation. So you want your stomach to be super acidic. Like you don't want it.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway. So, and also I think that like it's going through your stomach acid. And so is it going to stay alkaline throughout your whole entire system? Who really knows?
Is the mitochondria going to be able to use it?
Does the mitochondria even care? Right, I know. Right. And I heard that water can only stay alkaline for like 2 or 3 days max. So if you're buying like alkaline water in a plastic water bottle, then we've got other things to talk about. So, I get water from a water store. It's like ozonated, reverse osmosis water. And I have a glass 5-gallon jug. So it weighs like 80 pounds when I'm carrying it back into my house. But it's fine. It's super heavy. It's super
a good workout.
Yeah, it's a great workout. But I also have friends that like put in an under the sink thing. So, spring water in a bottle is great. Mineral water, I'm drinking Topo Chico out of a glass bottle. Topo Chico is a little bit higher in sodium, so probably not the best if that's something that you're worried about, but glass is the best. And then I put trace mineral drops into my water to remineralize it.
Okay.
You can find those online for like $20.
And then I think the last question I was curious about, because we briefly talked about like candles, is I need to look at something or illuminate something before sunrise or after sunset. Would a candle be a good tool to use?
Candle's a great tool. And so my friend Corey wears a headlamp, a red LED headlamp.
Okay.
And so I live in an apartment. He lives in a standing home in Tallahassee. And so he has the luxury of being able to turn off the circuit breaker in his whole house. So there's no ambient blue lights anywhere. So he wears a red headlamp. You don't have to go that far. I would just say switch out your bulbs to incandescent bulbs. Don't have them on a dimmer because again, the flicker rate will be kind of weird. And then I have like a book light for when I'm reading at night, like an anti-blue light book light,
Cool.
So they sell all sorts of goodies.
And then I guess that's the best way to kind of like purge it out, do some grounding if you, for some reason, have to be like around these lights before you go to bed.
Yeah. The grounding I wouldn't necessarily, doesn't really have anything to do with like the light situation.
Okay.
But like if you have to be out in those lights, like just get out of them as soon as possible. Like get in, get out. Like if I'm going out to dinner or something, I often will not wear my red lens blue light blockers just because it's like, enjoy your life, like have fun. But then like as soon as I get in the car, I have them on.
Well, that's probably something that's like a similar thing with like the whole example I had with me waking up in the morning, looking at Instagram versus now it's like, write things you're grateful for, meditate, stretch, it's now instead, it's just like, do one little thing at a time. You don't have to
do one thing. Yeah. Drops in the bucket add up. And another thing, so if you guys did not change your phone screen to red when we were doing it earlier, I would encourage you to rewind and go back to it. Just because like whenever you wake up in the morning first thing and you look at your phone and you have that blue light right in your face, you're signaling to your body that it's high noon. And then your circadian rhythm is like, oh shit. And then you're going to wake up earlier and then your sleep is disrupted because your body doesn't know what time it is.
That's a super good point because whenever I meditate in the morning, even whenever I have to turn off my alarm on my phone, there's like a level of me trying to like put my hand over it or like kind of guess where the pin is. But
so just put it on the red, like at night. Yeah. I mean, because hopefully you'll be doing it at night when the sun goes down anyway. So it'll be red throughout the night, airplane mode at night to stop the cell phone from emitting non-native electromagnetic frequencies while you're sleeping. Unplug the Wi-Fi router if you have access to that. I know that you're staying with people, so it's kind of hard to do. But my Wi-Fi router, the only hookup is in my bedroom, so I have to unplug that, of course.
Gotcha.
Even though I'm sure my neighbor is not, but that's okay. You got to do what you can with where you are and what you have, But so then that way, when you wake up in the morning to go on Headspace or whatever your app may be, you're looking at the red instead of blue.
I love it. Hannah, you're a wealth of knowledge.
I appreciate you, Clayton.
I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on, and we'll have to do it sooner than 20 episodes later.
Yeah, definitely.
Once we get the PhD in quantum biology.
Yeah, I know, right? I'll do some more research and then I'll be a little more fluid in my knowledge next time.
I mean, it was great, and a lot of it resonated with me. I guess we'll have to see what other people think, but I loved it. Absolutely. It was a beautiful conversation.
I look forward to it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on here. Conscious Monkeys.
Have fun in Egypt.
Thank you. It's going to be life-changing. I just feel like I'm going to get so many spiritual downloads and whatnot.
It's going to be sick.
So Conscious Monkeys, if Hannah said anything that resonates with you that, you vibed with, I'm going to drop all of her information down in the show notes. Go give her a follow on IG and whatever other way she wants to connect. With that being said, let's grow together.